Roger loves that thing, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
So is this Roger? Is this your personal board?
That's one of them.
One of them, okay.
Roger got 18.
Pretty warped right now.
Yeah, there's one wheel not on.
Raj, how dare
Yes,
you? No
or
wonder
two.
you haven't been skating well. No, I'm just kidding.
That's just trucks.
Could be the truck.
Oh, it could be the trucks.
Yeah, it's the trucks.
All right. We are back, huh? We're back at the 9 Club, everybody. Today, we have a very special returning guest, Mr. Paul Schmitt. Excuse me, Professor Paul Schmitt is back with us. How are you, dude?
Well, I'm great considering it's been 8 years and 1 day. The 9 Club's been around. Congratulations to you guys, right? Wow.
Thank you, bro.
Pretty
Wow.
crazy how you guys have become an establishment in our culture. And your whole thing is about just expressing and learning from our culture, right? Like, it's so cool.
Paul, I'm going to tell you, I have learned so many things on this show. I was never like a skate quote unquote nerd. I was never that guy, and it shows throughout the years. You could see my progression of not knowing anything to now being like almost, I wouldn't compare myself to Roger. He's very, but I'm up there, man. I know a lot of stuff now. So it's fabulous. That's one thing that I love about the show is being able to learn from the person.
It's fun watching the show, seeing you guys learn. Just to be clear, like that's part of the magic about it. I felt when I came on the first show, when I saw the result and excitement and interaction, I've continually get people like, I just saw that episode. It's like, that was years ago.
It was years ago. When was the last one? We did a stop and chat, right? That was the last one.
But the first one was...
Oh,
4 years ago, 4.5.
Yeah.
Was it?
At least.
Yeah.
I was going to say 5 maybe, but okay.
And he was the stop and chat was maybe right after
It was right after the pandemic.
Yep.
Yeah.
He was like one of the first people back in here.
Okay. I thought we were going to do it online. I was all set. No, you're going to come in. I'm like, you guys don't know we are.
Yeah.
It's that way now.
As long as you're comfortable.
Exactly. Yeah.
So we did a little, we thank you for coming. But just to preface this episode too, we did a little questioned our community. And we got some Discord questions, we got some YouTube community post questions, and some Instagram questions. So throughout the show, I'll be referencing some questions some hard-hitting questions, Paul, that people want to know about.
It's all good.
Okay?
I want to know. I want to share.
Okay.
I think it's really, really cool. It's really interesting with Instagram. You can talk straight to the consumer, but I just can't talk that much. That's the hard reality. I can't text fast enough. I can't answer that in a 3-word thing. Right. So hopefully we're going to approach a bunch of those things today.
Yes.
And express them to let people know, because when I was here before, what people learned and the things that I learned from them, what they learned, or what their perception of it was, because it's not really about what you learn, it's about what you perceive.
This is true. This is true.
And it's like, how are you perceiving it? Just for instance, I talked to Muska this morning. Had to say hi. We were talking about yellows because is it the right yellow on this graphic? And but it's hard to mess up a pure yellow like that, right?
Absolutely. That's probably just Pantone yellow.
Right. Yellow's easy to not mess up. Right. But red, Coca-Cola red or fire engine red, they're not the same. Coca-Cola red's got a little more black to it, Got to know your colors, But misperceptions, right?
Yeah.
Muska's like, you were pro, right? I was never pro. I had a company in my name on
You
it,
could have
but I wasn't
told,
pro.
yeah, you could have totally turned yourself pro.
No, I wasn't pro.
Yeah.
Never was. I did have a guest engineer model on Comet like 10 years ago.
Okay.
So, but otherwise I was never pro and never had a model. But people thought the yardstick was my model because I wrote it.
Yeah.
That's it, huh?
I definitely do.
And they had PS Stix on the stick.
Didn't have PS Stix, had Schmitt Stix.
Schmitt Stix, excuse me, Schmitt Stix.
But my name would be on the copyright on graphics and things, the way legal things go with that.
Perception.
Yeah.
Colors are interesting. When we had a Pantone for 9 Club, and it would either it was the weirdest thing, it would either come back way too red or way too yellow. And so we just now are just like, they're like, what's the color? We're just like orange. Just use orange. That's it.
Yeah, primary basic orange is that. But the minute you go a little bit too black,
yeah,
a little too white,
yeah,
it's crazy how color is.
Right.
Like the people that mix ink, like I know the color theory from percentage perspective, but give me 2 cups and say get to the cups and get to that color. It's hard, man. It is really, really hard.
I bet.
Takes a lot of experience.
Are you doing his boards, Muska's boards?
Yeah.
Oh, all the new ones that he, like with the
ones he just released yesterday, yeah.
Oh, sick.
Yeah, so we've done stuff with them on and off for a couple of years.
Let me ask you a question. Julio De La Cruz.
Yep, he's a character.
I don't think anybody hates Julio De La
No,
Cruz.
we love him,
He is the best dude. How did that, he works down at your factory.
So he works for me at PS Stix now. Yep.
In Tijuana?
In Tijuana. We're technically in Rosarito now.
Rosarito. How did that come
Ooh.
about? How did you get Julio De La Cruz involved?
Well,
with
first of all, he
this?
rode for New Deal as a little kid.
This is true.
So just to be clear, he lived in L.A., and he'd come to the factory and the warehouse, and he'd be like, you'd watch these little kids, and like Armando was all appropriate, and he wasn't trying to get anything.
Armando Barajas.
Yes,
Right.
exactly. But Julio was like, and his mom be with him, Julio, stop that, And it's like, no, it's okay, Mom, they're letting me take this, But nevertheless, there was here's kids from center of L.A., got to keep an eye on them,
Okay.
For sure.
Okay.
So I knew him that whole time, so he rode for New Deal for a couple years, and then he left and started his neighborhood project, and always kept in touch. In the trade show era, I was eager to see him at the trade show because he could be 5 booths away, and you go, Julio, because all the years when he called me, I'd be like instantly, do you know who it is? It's Julio. Of course it is. Like his voice has this raspiness to it, right?
Very distinct.
I was about to say
Yeah.
that. Yep.
Yeah, very, very.
And his
distinct.
energy.
And his energy.
His energy could like come at you right through the phone.
Yeah.
Even through
his,
text message.
His energy's amazing. His energy's amazing.
Very consistent.
Yeah.
Every time I've seen him, he had always the same type of energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how did
Yep.
how did he come to work for you?
Well, literally he knocked on the door 8 years ago, and nobody told me he knocked on the door when he was, back to that to Tijuana area. And then he knocked on the door 4 years later, and he's like, "Hey, I'm doing this." I'm like, "Well, do you work with computers?" "No, I don't really work with computers. I do on my phone." And I was like, and I just wasn't ready to hire someone that wasn't ready to deal with a computer, because the way we're so mathematical and systemized and everything,
Sure.
And basically over time, then he said, "Hey, do you think you can make this for my friend?" And it was a hot sauce bottle. So we always joke, thank God for hot sauce, Don Wapo, So we made this crazy Don Wapo board for him, And then I was like, yeah, why don't you come work for us now? Like, we made some hot sauce together. We could do it.
Perfect.
Amazing.
So he's been there for 4 years.
No, he's been for a year and a half.
I think he said 4 years ago.
Well, 4 years ago, he knocked on the door again and then went to work for another factory.
I gotcha.
And then basically, when he was done with that, he was like, hey, can you make this hot sauce bottle for me? Board.
That was it.
And I was like, yeah, but we got to make it like 20 thousandths thicker because it's got to be tough enough to skate. Because I don't make them to hang, I make them to ride. You can choose to hang them, right? But I build a board to ride from an engineering and structural perspective.
For sure.
What does he do there specifically?
So Julio is sort of deals with customer service, communication, like people that click in on our Shopify thing or call 800 number, it goes straight to him. And
Okay.
he also deals a lot with he's an amazing translator. I've never had anybody that literally, you say something in English and he translates it to Spanish like that, fast, quick. He talks fast anyways, right?
Sure.
So usually when you're around translation taking place, it goes really slow, right? And that's been my experience forever. With him, it's just like,
Okay,
It's
we're done.
really,
We're
really
recording.
Okay, fool, let's go. Like,
yeah, that's it right there. And then his sort of unconventionalness, where it's like, I'm a very like dot the I, cross the T type person, right? He's a very like off the cuff, whatever, however I feel, and then he'll say something and then he'll have a little smirk, that kind of thing, right? He's got that personality, so he's really, really cool. And we've gone through some challenges this last year. We basically downsized the factory and moved it. So I've been in the same building the whole time in Tijuana.
Right.
And we downsized it, moved to a smaller building in Rosarito. And he was very challenged through the process, but so was I. And the reality is that he rises to the challenge. There's no problem he's not willing to take on. Whether it's finding a little electrical connector, whether it's finding a machine shop to go machine this part that broke on a machine, there's nothing he's not willing to try, even though he starts with no idea of how it's going to happen. Well, I'll just go talk to this guy over here. We're dealing with hydraulics. Well, I'll go talk to the guy that has the tractor that did. And then the tractor guy will say, well, the hydraulics guy is over here. And the guy, well, the filter guy is over there. And it's like, that amazing, almost like, you're so used to Googling it and finding it, right? But basically, the way the world is now with Google Maps, you can sort of find anything, right? But what you don't find are those, no, this is the right guy. That's the guy you want to talk to,
Right.
And so he goes, he talks old school and goes right down and finds the right person right away. It's amazing.
it's a skill.
It's a skill, totally. I mean, he's
Full-blown talent.
communicator. So if anything, his main job at PS Stix is communicator.
That's his name tag. His name badge is communicate. Does he wear a Does he wear?
No, he doesn't wear a coat. Not yet. He's learning a lot, though. He's learning a lot. We'll see if he gets there one day.
Okay.
Professor Julio.
Professor Julio.
Yeah.
Professor De La Cruz. Now, when you say you downsized, was that
Yep.
is that because of? I feel like the skate industry is ups and downs always, right? It's
Always
a
goes
wave.
ups and downs,
It's a
yeah.
wave, right? I feel like right now we are at the bottom of a wave, right? It's kind of we've hit kind of a bottom right now.
We're in a
is
very
this-
bottom because the market's just oversupplied. You know, so if you look at the COVID era,
Yep.
the first couple months of COVID is how do I operate in this, right? And that was that challenge. And we figured out how to sort of punk it and pull it off and do split shifts and have people work remote, and statistically you're not with 40 people, you're with 12 and you're with the same 12. That type of mindset is how we managed it.
Right.
And then I would go to the factory on the weekends and do mechanical work when nobody was there because I didn't want to bring COVID from Costa Mesa to Tijuana, right? So there was a lot of that type of thing going on, and we figured out how, and sort of after I don't know, probably 4 months of COVID, we sort of got our whole crew back because basically people that were old or had health conditions went home paid, and that included the mechanics. So that's why Paul had to do that.
Okay.
And then we just sort of morphed through it, and then we basically doubled the business from what it was pre-COVID.
From what I understand with the industry is everybody over ordered during COVID, right? And so they
Yep.
got all the stuff, and now they were in a position that they had to sell everything.
Right. And the case is that it's, for me, because I'm here in North America with the factory, the wood comes from the Great Lakes region of North America. So the material was on my continent. China had to get the maple to their continent.
Right.
And then the boats were going slow and packed up and piled out in the harbor. So everything that was being made in China got backlog. So anything being made in North America could happen really quick. Now, we had heat transfers coming from China, but they were coming on an airplane. They were flying over the boats,
Oh, okay.
right? So it was a very interesting thing. But then, once the market finally figured out that the race was over, it went to half of that and then went to half of that. And I was just like, I was sort of over it. I always had a building in Tijuana that was too big for me.
Oh, it's always been too big.
It's always been too big from day one.
Oh, okay. Oh, I got you.
Okay.
So downsizing almost had nothing to do with the landscape of the industry.
It did in a sense. So in COVID, I doubled the business with the same staff.
Okay.
So when I decided to change, I halved the staff. Mm-hmm. And then in Mexico, you basically buy out their retirement and things like that. It's not a cheap or easy thing.
Got you.
And then basically moved, and downsized. But basically, I'm more equivalent now to how I operated in Costa Mesa, where before in Tijuana, my factory was way bigger than double the size of Costa Mesa.
Mm-hmm.
What made you get a bigger warehouse like that?
When I went down there, the cycle of the market at that time in 2005 was there weren't buildings available, and you could get this building that they're putting the walls up on right now for the same price per square foot as a 30-year-old building with 12-foot ceilings. So I had a building that looked like it belonged in Irvine. 30-foot ceilings, all the nice infrastructure, did all the money to put electric in and everything, and then never really got the value out of it. I never made what I made in Costa Mesa. Costa Mesa, my record year was 920,000 boards.
Jeez.
And
A
that
year.
factory was run- yeah.
In a year.
So sort of in the
year.
90s, we made
Damn.
300,000 a year plus or minus 10%. And as the market went up in 99, we built 500. Then we built 720. Then we built 920. And I slowed it down in July. I slowed down the purchasing. But I couldn't slow down the factory for a month because there were 2 truckloads of wood on the highway at any moment. And then at that particular time, the industry didn't know the race was over till like Christmas. But because I had Element and Black Label as part of Giant, and I was getting so many of the sales because I could supply, right? Half of what PS Stix was making for those brands, half of it was being made for other brands. So it was crazy.
When did you notice specifically that things were going to start changing?
Then or now or when?
I
cycle?
would say now, after the COVID stuff.
So after COVID, I almost didn't want to accept it was going to change.
Yeah.
I really felt with the combination of COVID, people excited coming back to skateboarding because they had time. Because they couldn't work or weren't allowed to work, right? But then the minute life got them back into the reality of work and cycle, well, now they didn't have time anymore. but they did have passion. I mean, there's a lot of older skaters. I skate with the skate park all the time. They're like, they came to the park with their kids. Their kids are on to something else now, and they're still at the park skating.
Yeah.
Right.
They get resparked.
A respark. Yeah, the respark for skateboarding. It's sort of like, as you're young, you want to get old, right? As you're old, you want to get young. That's
so
the reality of
crazy
it,
how
right?
that works.
Yeah.
Goodness.
This question actually kind of piggybacks on what we're talking about right now. This is from our Instagram. This is from Greg Carroll, actually. He
Okay.
said, is he happy with how many board brands have flooded the market, and what state does he envision the skateboard industry in the next 10 years?
Okay. So thanks for the question, Greg.
Two-part question.
Yeah. The consumer's the boss. Okay. They vote with their money.
Right.
They vote with their dollars. They decide what they're going to buy, what they're into. Whether it's good, bad, right, or wrong is irrelevant. Whether it's hip or cool, doesn't matter. If they voted with their dollars, they voted, right? And as a consumer, I would say that society is becoming more conscious about what they buy. They want it to be environmental. They want to understand what it's about.
Mm-hmm.
The reality is things get more expensive. You want to have value for the money you spend, right? That's the reality of it.
True.
And it's a lot of times it's hard. And as you get older as a consumer, you get more disappointed in things that you buy. You're like, oh, it didn't meet my needs. Like for me, being a manufacturing engineering person, I'm like, if it was my job to make that part, here's how I would look at it, right? Like that's just how I see it,
But we're talking. Go ahead,
but
please. Yeah.
their full-time job, right? Their full-time job is to make this device, machine, part, whatever it is.
But you're talking about the manufacturing right now. But so the manufacturing, you're not manufacturing every board brand's boards, right? But
Right.
there is an influx of board brands in the industry.
Right. So going back to Greg's question, not getting lost on that.
No.
So we definitely have a lot of brands in skateboarding now. And, as Muska said the other day on his thing, it's like he's his own brand, right? And Musk is his own brand. And he made a huge footprint in skateboarding. And he deserves that right for that brand, right? He didn't buy it.
100%.
He earned it.
He is the brand. Yeah.
He is the brand, exactly. So super cool to see that, right? And then, but anybody with money can start a brand. When someone wants to start a brand, we got $250,000. That's the biggest curse you could have to start a skateboarding brand. Your ego's filled with money, and you think that's going to make it work?
Well, also, but
It doesn't work.
Yeah.
But didn't the wood shops also play a part in that too? Because they lowered the minimums, right?
Well, supply and demand. So for me, myself, I was someone that was it was hard to get into PS Stix. Like I was about limiting who's coming in. It's down to 50 boards.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know.
And then I don't want to be out of business. But the reality is that in the challenge out there, and multiple manufacturers around the globe, right? And then you have exchange rates between countries, and they can't afford to buy it from this country, but they can afford to buy it from that country. It's challenging.
Yeah.
What was the minimum
Mildly.
before 50?
It was like, do we think your brand's worthy? Are you working on something worthy?
Okay.
And it was like, well, you can order 250 boards or 500 boards or 1,000 boards or something like that, But realize it's now 50 with like, it could be 2 graphics and 5 per shape.
They can split it.
But they're stock shapes. So to be clear, everything that PS Stix always made was custom made. So if I was making a girl Duran board, it was this shape, this mold. That shape belongs to girl. That mold's being used by them. And that was that, right? Now it's like I got, basic shapes on the shelf, and they can order from those. If they want that a custom shape, well, now if it's an existing one that's available, they can do 50. But if they want a custom one from scratch, I got to have my own. It's, I got to cut. Well,
we got to up it a little
now
bit.
we got to make 100, and we
Yeah.
got to charge you for a template, and it becomes more.
Right.
For his second part of the question, like, do you think about what the industry is going to be like in like 10 years from now? Like, speaking of Muska and being his own brand and all these brands that are flooding the market, like, do you think about what's coming in the next 10 years?
Not really.
No,
I just accept it is what it is.
Okay.
Like I'm not in charge. When I was young, I had generational influence, right? I was the generation, and I could see it, and then I had the skills to express it, make it happen, whether it was a board or a ramp or a contest or whatever it was, right? And that was what I was. I was a doer, right? That's the reality. Some people are thinkers, some are doers. I'm a thinker and a doer.
Right.
And
So you go with the flow, kind of.
I just
You're
go
with the flow kind of guy.
I go with the flow very much, but
Okay.
I'm paying attention, right? I'm listening. What's happening? What's the feedback loop?
Yeah, it's interesting.
So where it will go in the next 10 years, it's really up to the consumer. The consumers to decide. They're going to vote with their dollars.
Right.
you know,
Can
or
you-
they're going to make it themselves. The DIY world of skateboarding is really, really cool. The guys building stuff in their garage and doing their own region and being their own local, right? Mm-hmm.
It's realer than ever. Like, yeah, at this moment, for sure.
Yeah.
Everybody's really taking and being proactive about it, for sure.
Yeah.
So you kind of go with the flow of what's happening in the skate industry, but do you see things coming?
I mean, I see that in a sense of like if you talk about board shapes are becoming more compact. Wheelbases are trending shorter, but that's because for quite a while, wheelbases are trending bigger and longer. And people are like, oh, well, I don't want to wheel this big axe around. You know, I brought a couple things. When we get to the right question, we'll pull them out. We'll use that example, right?
For sure.
You know, to share with that.
Speaking of, okay, we had talked about that, and you're working on a board with Cordano Russell,
Right.
Right. He's a big guy. He's what is he? He's 235 pounds, 6'4".
Yeah.
And he's
Monster.
what, 18 years old? He's
At 19 now.
19, right?
Yep.
And this is coming from our YouTube community, Christian O'Rich. Hope I said that right. I really want to hear more about the project to develop Cordano a stronger board. 6'4", 235 pounds, 15-inch wheelbase. So he's on a 15-inch wheelbase.
15.
And we talked about it before that it's almost like I wanted to know if wait, hold on. I wanted to know I wanted to know if like board sizes should be like shoe sizes, right? Because you would mention like a wider stance, a smaller stance, like somebody's body size should be equivalent to what they're riding.
Right. So in my personal opinion,
Yeah.
the wheelbase should be in relation to your height.
Okay.
And if you want to get really specific, it would be inseam. But I don't have enough data on inseam. Height, I got 25 years of data on height. I understand it. It's a really great control. Inseam's just been on my radar for 3-4 years.
What would a say 5-foot person versus a 6-foot person? What would the difference be with the wheelbase in
Well,
that?
here's my Creative Skate height chart I put up here. So,
Yeah.
So a 5-foot person, right, is going to be right here, and they're 13.5-inch wheelbase.
Okay.
But they're probably riding a 14 1/8 or 14 1/4 because that's market
That's
average.
standard, yeah.
So this is some math I've shared in the past, but an average man in the USA is 5'9". The average man in the world in Asia is 5'7". So now we're talking full-grown adults.
Sure.
We're not even talking children. This chart was really about children growing up. Nija took the slow step through this chart. But if we look at women, the average woman in the USA is 5'4". The world's 5'3". Asia's 5 foot.
Okay, it's a big
Right?
difference.
Big difference.
Yeah.
And then that, for me, the way I build smaller boards is they're thinner and lighter. Who wants a thinner and lighter board?
I do.
Everybody does,
Yeah,
right? Okay,
yeah.
we're going to chop your legs off a little, tune you down.
Okay. Yeah. No, I don't want that. I don't want that. I like being 6 foot. So to answer my question, so a 5-foot person versus a 6-foot person, what's the difference in wheelbase? What are we looking at?
So here I would put a 6 foot tall person on a 15-inch wheelbase.
You would put a 6-foot tall person on a 15-inch wheelbase.
Absolutely.
Okay.
That seems
And-
pretty. 15 is
It's long.
long, right?
What's your inseam?
I don't know.
What do you mean
bro.
inseam, like your
Do you want
waist?
we measure right now? I don't know what
problem.
the.
I could.
Well, the
That's so-
inseam is the
Right,
from
so
their groin down to
it's
the.
crazy to me.
your
People
feet.
buy pants and they don't know their inseam. But
Right.
you can't buy pants without understanding the waist and the inseam are part of a pant. The wheelbase and the width is part of a skateboard. And then the
here's
reality
the-
is that people want to know the length. The length is a byproduct
Here's the
of
pro-
everything else being right. It's a byproduct.
Here's the problem, though, Paul. This isn't like the shoe business. This is like there's a standard issue, like you just said. There's a standard issue that everybody orders, which is 14 1/4, right? That you said
Right now, yeah.
right now. So
Yep.
companies don't sell boards according to people's heights. It's not like the shoe size, right? Where it's they sell 10.5, a 10, a 11.5, an 11, a 12. You know, like the industry is conforming to like one wheelbase almost.
Right. No, it's pretty lame.
It's lame.
Yeah, it's lame, you know, because it's the hard reality is you go into a skate shop, you're really excited about a brand or pro or graphic. You walk in there's a bunch of other brands, pros and graphics. You get all distracted or like, oh, wow, this is rad. This is cool. Yeah, you lose track of what's most important. How does it work for me? How does it work for me? Now, what happens with skaters, in general, they figure out they like this size wheel, they like this size truck, and it's always the board's fault. that things aren't working right.
It's never my fault, Paul.
Yeah,
Never.
It's always the board's fault.
I never cared about. I mean, we grew up. I never cared about wheelbase.
No,
Never cared about anything.
I really,
I realized
but other people did.
Yeah, there's people that
Okay,
do.
so Rick and Mike cared about
For sure
wheelbase.
they did,
They
definitely.
would come to the shop and work with Mike Pust at that time that made templates at my shop, and they were super concerned about that, But they grew up under Rodney's tutelage, right? But also in your era didn't want to see it, have it. They're like, I don't care.
Yeah, just give me the board.
All the guys beforehand were like, I'm drawing my board on a grocery bag because that's the easiest way to get a long piece of paper is unfold a grocery bag and here's what I want, right? And that went away.
Skate companies are already selling their boards per size, and that they don't want to get into another inventory rush of having now lengths.
Well, now the metric is all the more because now you say, well, where's the fingers are flat? How tall is the tail? What's the angle of the tip? What's the angle of the tail? Is it symmetrical? Is it not symmetrical?
So working with Cordano, who's 6'4", 235 pounds, is that a challenge for you? Or are you just like, oh, this is what you need? Are we adding more plies to it? Like, what are we doing?
So it's amazing. And it is a challenge, but also it's just a way to go refine what I know. Mm-hmm. But it hasn't come to the point where my customers are saying, I want to buy that. Okay.
Right.
So that's part of what it comes down to.
And your customers are the skateboard
The
companies.
brands.
Right.
I almost feel. Continue. Sorry,
Yeah.
I'll tell you.
Right.
After.
So what happened at Cordano is Mike said, hey, he breaks boards, and I meet him, and I was like, wow, okay, and his spirit and his personality is such an amazing person, and it's so cool. And every time I meet up with him, he's usually with family, and it's cool. Whether we meet at the skate park, whether we meet, wherever, Balboa Park.
Yeah.
One day I met him in Balboa Park. The guy, he's like, well, I've been here twice trying to get this trick, and he's filming, right? And I thought it was going to be in this Thrasher part, and it wasn't in it. He grabs his board, waits for a car, runs across the street, pushes uphill, rolls up a little ramp, metal ramp he's got.
Don't
up the
tell us
curb.
what trick he's going to do, though. No, but don't.
You always.
I
have
know,
what the
but
trick
out of
is.
respect for Cordano and the trick that he's trying, I would tell us after the
Oh my
show. But you know what I
God.
mean?
This is a
though.
year and a half ago.
Oh, this is a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
I thought this was recent.
No.
Oh,
But anyway,
Tell us the trick there.
I can't
Okay.
remember if it was 8 or 10 stairs.
Gotcha,
I
okay.
don't remember what it was.
okay.
He board slides up it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And this is the third time he's been at this spot to work at it, and I'd never seen him in the battle, right? I'd never seen him in that battle, and then his dad's there, and his dad's got things to say, and I got a thing or two to share, of course, and he finally does it a little sketchy, and then finally does it perfect. But the energy to run and push uphill 40 times to have enough mass and energy to go up a rail 8 or 10 stairs.
It's a talent.
Athlete, dude.
Yeah.
It's
He's an athlete.
Yeah.
Something that Leo said in the Thrasher thing about him, like to take a hit, like you see him hit his crotch 3 times and just bounces up and keeps on going.
He's a beast.
Now he also has long legs, and everybody's thinking my leg's on that rail,
Right.
And the reality is for him, he's getting a light touch. But if you were 4 inches shorter, there's no light touch.
Oh, dude,
Yeah,
my
right?
balls would be in my throat, bro. Yeah.
Right.
So
gonna work out
It's this proportionate scale thing, right?
Right.
So with him, I started off instantly still trying to figure out shape. We figured out one shape. I've never even messed with shape at Cordano because he goes through a board so quick, he doesn't care. It's like, I'm not going to waste my time on that, But we got him in the zone. He'd had a board. He actually had a Powell flight board that he liked. There was a Sama Naga one. And he's like, this is the best performing board I got for me. But he still goes through them, right? And then he's buying boards at this point in time, And in the what did I figure out today? It was 19 months I've worked with him. He's gone through 201 boards. Wow! So it was like 2.4 something boards per day or something.
Nuts, dude.
Yeah.
because he's breaking them.
Yeah.
No, he doesn't break them anymore.
Well, what did you do?
Okay, so he really breaks them. Okay. So first of all, I started with thickness.
Okay.
Okay. Now people I saw comments, make it 9-ply. No, I already figured that out in the early 90s that when I make it 9-ply, I plasticize the wood so much that the nanotubes are filled with plastic and they're dead tubes.
We don't want to mess with the nanotubes.
dead
What about
tubes?
8-ply?
More glue, less nanotubes.
Explain
Okay.
really quick, just to what the nanotubes are for people maybe haven't watched you on our show before.
Well, that was the amazing thing. 'Cause when I came to the show the first time, and people are always like, nanotubes, like it's pop, right? These tubes that are in this wood right here.
Yeah.
This is probably walnut in this part of the table, right?
Beautiful table, man.
And
Focus Woodworks.
Focus Woodworks,
Yeah.
right? Yep. Yeah, they shipped this thing all the way across the ocean
God
to you.
bless 'em.
Amazing. I made some of those boards in there and shipped them all the way there, and they shipped them
They
all the
shipped
way
them right back.
right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so the nanotubes?
So the grain that's in this tree is nanotubes, right? And from the bottom of the tree's sucking up water through those tubes, and it's getting nutrients. It's getting nutrients from the sunshine. How do you think that water gets to the top of that tree?
Nanotubes.
Through the tubes, right?
Okay.
But the leaves get hot. They suck on the thousands of, tens of thousands of leaves on the top of the tree.
Right.
Gets the water to nourish the tree.
Oh, so they're sucking the water up through the nanotubes.
Right.
That's what you're saying.
Right.
So,
So those tubes are the highway.
so nanotubes are very microscopic
Yep.
Highways.
highways.
Yeah.
And what happens with it when a tree is cut down and there's no more sucking?
Right. So to be clear, the highway of a tree, when you look at growth rings on a tree, only the outside layer is growing.
Okay.
The rest of the tree is done growing. It's
The rings.
It's locked in place.
Okay.
Right. And this ties to some of the comments about environmentalness of a skateboard, right?
Yeah, so I
Do you
have a
realize
lot.
if you have a piece of wood and it doesn't rot, it's a carbon sink?
Explain.
It's a carbon sink. They talk about carbon in the air and pollution, right? So pollution is carbon floating in the air, the particulate, right?
Sure.
If you burn this, it's going to put carbon in the air. If you let it rot, it's going to put carbon in the air at a very slow rate. So if it falls down in the forest and puts carbon in the air, it's a slow rate. It's going to rot and do
okay.
that, right? If you burn it, it's going to put carbon in the air at a fast rate. If you keep it in a stable state, it's holding that carbon. It's not putting it back in the environment.
Okay.
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 Just this last week, and what they're talking about heat in North America, crazy, right? In temperature and how we had this slow climb coming, right? And it's all carbon related. It's basically breaking down the protection Mother Nature has given us, right? And so what I'm trying to illustrate there is if you let a hard maple tree fall in the forest and rot, it's going to put carbon in the environment.
Okay. Naturally.
Right. Now, this is part of Mother Nature's cycle, but man's accelerated the cycle by burning fossil fuels and other things, right? We have all this great stuff right here because of it, but nevertheless, there's a byproduct to everything. Every action has a reaction.
So when the tree is no longer living, the nanotubes freeze?
They're just there and solid. If they're,
They're
not
there and
rotting,
solid, okay.
they're not there and rotted.
Right.
So getting back to Cordano, because
Yeah.
I'm going down a whole
No,
nother-
this is great. Yeah. I was going to bring you back.
Right. So with Cordano, I quickly went to thicken up the boards and make them like the hot sauce board I made for Julio. Put a thicker ply underneath the top face because that's where the energy is from the top when you put your energy on the nose and the tail, and where you put the wood in relation to the board, and where you position it, and that worked pretty well for them. Then we started working to make it thicker, and then basically they break. So you can remember the jump ramp era of the 80s and boards breaking. Roger remembers that, right, Roger?
Definitely.
Hell yeah.
I know you're back there. And because boards were so thick that they broke easy. Now, also, there wasn't much concave in the back because they didn't have parallel concave. They had very little concave in the back and a bunch in the front.
Yep.
So part of it was that, but it was also thickness, like how thick the board is and how it breaks. So basically, as we got into the 90s, Chuck Holtz at Vision figured out, hey, I can make the cross pans 50 thousandths thick and make the board thinner and lighter, and that allowed it to flex a little more, right? And that sort of led us into, the football shapes of the 92, 93, and, by 94, we're just popsicles, right? And now we got this standard thing. Now, the popsicle had this shallow concave that was needed at that time, and then basically I made Element Featherlight in 98 to satisfy Chris Markovich because he wanted the board thinner and lighter. And I'm like, you got to settle for more concave or it's not going to work.
Okay.
And that's what changed the concave. So back to Cordano's board is that it's the combination of the nanotubes where you put them, the amount of concave, all of that. So we played with different molds. We found out where his fingers of flat like to be. Because he's such a big, powerful person, usually someone young like him wants their bolt holes right near the bend. And they sense it, but they don't say it, but they sense it. And that's because they want it to be hyper, because they don't have the skills yet. When you got the skills, you want your bolt holes far apart. You can remember the fingers of flat thing in the 90s, right? I use fingers of flat as a thing, and people are like, well, use a tape measure. Well, the tape measure doesn't actually cuddle the tail. The fingers do. And I always have these with me. Now, I have a tape measure with me all the time, right?
Right.
But most people don't. And so to me, that definition of understanding that, because if you have a board that has 2 fingers of flat versus 1.5, well, the 1.5, when you put the tail on the ground, the nose is going to be higher up, okay? And if you have less, the nose is going to be lower, right? But also the power of the pop. Now, when you go to manual, if you have more fingers of flat, it's easier to manual. If you have less fingers of flat, it's harder to get in the zone, but then when you lock in. Like in general of a manual, you lock. When you find your lock, right?
You pinch. You're what we joke about, the pinch almost. The
pinch.
Yeah.
Yeah, the good old pinch.
Yeah.
So you're telling me that for Cordano's board, you thickened up
I thickened
the first or second ply?
I thickened up a second ply.
Second ply. Did you work
Now,
with hemp or anything?
So I thickened up a second ply.
Okay. Which makes the board way more.
But way more.
Okay.
Right? But proportion, size.
He's
He's already an 8
right.
3/4 board. He's already a big board anyways.
Okay.
And then I played with some fiberglass reinforcements, some things I've done in the past, and he was like, wow, this is working really good. And then I moved the factory, and I took apart that department where I had those resources that were sitting still. And we were moving the factory. I saw some hemp fabric. I'm like, I haven't messed with hemp in a while. And I'm like, I'm going to mess with hemp at Cordano.
It's perfect because that's a really strong property.
Well, the amazing thing about hemp, basically it's fabric like this is, right? But hemp is like nature's fiberglass. It's a very tough fiber, you know?
Okay.
And as much as it has its, smoke it and weed side, there's industrial hemp, right?
Yeah.
You know? And that's what we're talking about here is industrial hemp. And so the industrial hemp, basically you can get a hemp t-shirt. It's the same material, 7-ounce hemp t-shirt's what's in Cordano's board. 7-ounce weight.
Great.
Okay.
And that has fiber going long and cross, so the fiber is 50-50. Now a skateboard has the fiber 80-20, 80% long. So in one way, am I wasting some of that fiber going the wrong way? Well, I'm buying what I can buy. I'm doing what I can do, But I'm just experimenting and improving along. Unfortunately, the stuff's expensive. Everything's getting more expensive. I went to go buy it. I'm like, oh my gosh, it costs this now? It's double of what it was. I used to make some hemp boards for Habitat years ago, and they have one layer of hemp underneath the top face. And the ones I built for Cordano have a layer of hemp underneath the bottom face and the top face. And it works more like a surfboard or a snowboard. If you have either of those and you take a utility knife and drag it across, it's going to break right there. A skateboard will actually do that too. Hard maple. If you take your knife and score your grip tape, that's where it's going to break.
Can you notice the pop is different on hemp?
It's about the lasting. So to be clear, there's only 20 thousandths of hemp in a board that's 400 thousandths thick. Not that much.
Yeah.
Right? Now the hemp, because it's infused with glue, is denser. Those boards are heavy. They're not light, but they're tough.
And they cost more.
I'm just making them to support somebody's needs. Nobody said, do I really want to buy it? And then I'll be like,
Okay.
well, you ready to commit to 10,000? I want 12. Yeah, give me 12 of them. It's like, no.
Right.
Let's make 10,000 of these fuckers. Let's make this shit happen. Okay?
Do you think that would innovate?
As long as we make 12, it will never innovate. Even 201 won't innovate. So the interesting thing about hemp is I'm infusing it with the same polyvinyl water-based glue I glue a board with. Not epoxy, not petroleum resins or anything like that. And it's basically Elmer's wood glue in an industrial version. And I'm infusing the fibers with that. And I can machine it with my regular tools and there's no problem. The minute you put fiberglass in there, your cutter goes wah, 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 and you burn out cutters. And then you know what's floating in the air in your factory? Fiberglass particles all over the place.
No bueno.
Now, I remember those pretty good because as a kid, I built sailboats.
I remember you saying, yeah.
And fiberglass was grounded all over the place there. So I probably still got it in my lungs from that.
Sheesh.
But it's got this nastiness. It's got this itchiness.
Right.
Yes.
But I made boards of fiberglass. I built them that way as a kid.
So what was the result in this? He's just not breaking as many boards anymore?
He doesn't break many boards. Periodically he does, and then he's like, look at how this one broke. And I'm like, wow, But look, I got a stack of over 150 boards in my shop. And he gives them to me, and I do my quick analyzation, Sometimes I'll take it and I'll cut the grip on the front truck and get the serial number and go put it in a database. And I'm collecting data like, how's this one broken? And the most common thing is just dead. Now, depending where you spot you're on, obviously one spot can wreck a board, right? You know, and sometimes not, you know. And some of the hemp ones, these last in a week and a half at times.
Breaking a board is just a part of the game.
It's
It's just about how many
When you weigh 240 pounds and you're going to go up a rail.
Dude, that would
Yeah, right.
imagine your board breaking as you're going up a handrail.
gosh.
Your board sliding and
Well, he was breaking it on the landing, no? Or was he breaking it going
He'll
on the right?
he breaks boards into rails.
Okay.
dude,
He breaks boards into rails.
Not with this new formula, though.
Right.
less.
No, the hemp ones he hasn't broken them that way.
But
yet.
the problem-
hemp ones don't really break because they have so much fiber to them. But what happens is that still they get he breaks the nanotubes. He breaks them internally. Where you're like, this board looks pretty good still, and it's like, yeah, but it's dead.
The nanotube crusher, dude.
Yeah,
He is not friend. The
Yeah,
nanotubes don't like him.
XL Nano Crusher, right?
The problem is, though, is like there are so many big boys out there that would love to have these boards and this technology, but we're just, it's just not there yet to be for the consumer. That's what
Right.
you're saying, right?
Yeah, well, a brand has to sense that there's really a marketplace
Right.
for it, you know, and be willing to do it, you know. And then the consumer's got to be willing to pay for it, by the way, because whatever we get to talk about or flight boards, for instance, they're expensive, right?
So how much would these boards cost?
That could be a flight board price, pretty easy.
What's that? What's a
$100 retail.
$100? Oh, shit.
Damn.
You know,
The problem is, too, in my opinion, is the skateboard companies don't talk to each other anymore, right? Like, we used to have the ASR trade show. We used to have all this stuff.
Yep.
Everybody used to get together and talk, and there was an industry
yeah. If
like
they don't want,
get
if
together.
they don't want to answer your phone call and they're not social, they're not at events. There's no way to even interact.
Well, that's what I'm
with
saying,
them
though.
anymore.
But to get everybody on board on a certain thing, you'd have to go pitch everybody on this idea. There's not a talking going on in the industry. Like, hey, you know what? There's a big market for these boards. We should at least order 20 or 50 of these boards. And if every company does order
I
a
feel
certain
like-
amount of boards, then
People talk to the shops though, and I think the word gets around. I would think, right?
I don't know.
Yeah, but how does it affect the purchasing position of that shop, right? If the shop doesn't think that's desirable, hip, or cool, and an opportunity, they're not bringing it in. I mean, sometimes when I visit shops, you go to a certain town and you're like, "What do you mean you don't have those brands here?" No, not into them. You know?
Yeah.
Right.
But you look at how many brands are out there, which comes back to Greg's question, like how many brands is there room for?
lot.
You know, and if we go back to the '80s, you know, my brand Schmitt Stix was lumped in with Vision and Sims. Vision was the big brand, right? But as a group, it was that, and you know, and then you had Powell as their own thing. You had NHS, which had SMA, right? You know, and those were sort of the big board groups, right?
It was like
You know?
8 to 10 board brands at that time, and now
And then
there's
there
like
was Airborne
hundreds.
or Zorlak or, you know, there were still other things. And then there was Oddballs, right? There's so many now.
I'm just looking at some of these questions because like we've covered so much stuff and a lot of it, but maybe we can go back to this one, the cost of boards. So like
Yep.
Dumb Data asks from our YouTube community, what's a cost to make a board and the most difficult process of making that skateboard?
So the most difficult process of making a board, or the most important process, is pressing and drilling.
That is why.
Why? Because pressing is the plywood and how strong it's going to be.
Okay.
You know, and that's part of what I'm working with Cordano on. Like, where's my moisture content? What if I take it up 1%? What if I take it down 1%? Like, I'm down to that micro level with him. You know, it's like, this batch of boards is really good. I'm like, why was that board really good? Well, we were in environmental conditions that week. Oh, it rained. It was wetter, was better. But the reality is, for him, not having to take the board apart till it's done is the best thing for him. If you take a board because it's not working for you and you take it apart now, whether it's broken, a chip, or pop's gone or whatever, if you used it up, that's as environmentally wise as it can be, and then hopefully someone like Focus Woodworks will make something out of it, right?
So you're saying the most difficult process of making a skateboard is the pressing and the drilling.
Right.
Two
Right.
difficult
Because
processes.
And the drilling isn't difficult, it's important.
Right.
So they're not really difficult. They're important.
Okay.
In the modern world with CNCs and people building their own CNC machine, because they got the understanding of that, the accessibility to tools isn't that hard anymore. The hardest thing is to get a glue machine, put the glue on.
Well, wait a minute.
But a lot of guys are just doing with paint rollers, right?
If you have this big, and this is like from Dumb Data's question too, like how there's so many aspects of making a single board, right? There's the pressing and then this and the sanding, and this is like, how do you actually come up with the cost of making a single board?
It's hard.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the cost of labor, it's the cost of equipment, it's the cost of raw materials,
But also
the cost of insurance, the cost of compliance, the cost of crossing a border. It's not easy.
But you also have to be competitive with every other wood shop out there.
Yeah, that's why I'm barely in business,
Because everybody's just
because it's that challenging.
it's that challenging.
Do you think that skateboards should be higher in price?
Knowing that they never really changed in price the last couple of years, yes,
Yeah.
very much.
And inflation.
Compared
it's
compared to
cost of
consumer
living.
devices, I can't afford an extra, $20 on my skateboard, but I sure can afford the new model of this.
iPhone? Yeah.
Where are you going to spend your money? Like you're voting with your money, right? But the hard reality of skateboarding, if someone said to me right now, Paul, I want $1,000 board that's the best board it could be, I'm not sure how to pull that off. Okay.
What about
$1,000?
Yeah, that's gold flakes,
but no,
maybe some diamonds.
Louis Vuitton or someone can put a stamp
yeah.
on it and it will be
There
that,
you
right?
go. Right,
Yeah,
But from a substance perspective, a skateboard is so well refined. The reality is, like, as I talk about nanotubes, right? So I found this amazing additive I wanted to try with my glue a couple years ago. And it was a nanotube additive, and the technical specs were like, wow, that's a lot of gain for 0.25% or 0.5% of material. So I reach out to the company, hey, can I get some samples of this material? They're like, well, we don't give samples. Like, well, why not? I can get it from the fiberglass company. I can get it from the resin company. I just got to prove I'm a business. It's $857 an ounce.
An ounce.
An ounce. So I use thousands of pounds of glue a week. And if I was going to have 1%, I'm already out of business,
Wow.
right? Like you can't afford it.
And-
But Elon can go to the space with it, no problem at all. They can afford it.
Sure.
But those aren't Mother Nature's nanotubes. Those are man-made nanotubes, right? We got the best stuff in its original form.
What do you think the price of a skateboard should be?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not sure what to say.
What is it now, like 60? Or 60 to 80?
60 to 80, depending on the shop and the environment, how competitive they are,
Because we were joking about on the show last night about how like skateboards just make $2 a board and how
Well, for
Right.
the professional,
Yeah, no, yeah.
they get $2 royalties.
Right, which is way better than they got before then. That's
Well-
when Rocco upped the game.
but they're
but
selling less boards though.
Right, yeah, but that's
Yeah.
the problem. Is
Yeah.
we don't sell any units, right?
Yeah.
Because there's so many brands, there's so many things. Because that local brand there can do their local way better than the chocolate team come and buy once every 3 years to that tiny little part of Nebraska.
Right.
They were 50 miles away anyways. They didn't even come to our city. We
Right.
had to go to them.
Right.
Yeah.
So the hard reality is that local thing. And then every shop is its own brand now. That's the reality,
They had,
almost-
they had to figure out a way to make some money too.
Yeah.
You know?
The shops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of, we got a lot of questions on this, but it's basically like Brandon Riddick asks, like, what advances are being made for adhesives and glues to better our planet? A lot of it was based on sustainability.
Okay.
Right. Has anything changed? I mean, we talked about the hemp, which is good, but the glues and
Right. So I saw the comments, like if you say like, oh, bamboo goes quick, bamboo goes fast, right? That's great. Well,
Okay.
Bamboo isn't that great for impact resistance, okay? Now, I found great ways to make a boards and combine bamboo and hemp and maple together, and find the characteristics of everything. As I said, the hemp boards for Cordano, if they were 100% hemp, they would weigh a ton. It would be so dense because they don't have hollow tubes in them.
there's no nanotubes in hemp.
Well, there might be,
How do
but they're
they-
smaller nanotubes than we have.
Oh, okay.
than wood or than hard maple specific.
Okay.
In a sense, if you look at the porosity of any material, the density of it, that's going to affect the weight, right? So with a skateboard, you have this problem of if you have mass, too much thickness, you're back to the 80s and it breaks easy. Too thin and there's not enough structure to hold it. And it's this balance game, right? So when I changed it to feather-light construction in the late 90s, I found the balance to make it thinner and lighter and flex and come back, right? Where before then, the board didn't flex and come back. You came off of it.
What do you mean? It shot you off like a spring?
That's how the skateboard works now. It's like a spring.
Okay.
Okay, but before then, it wasn't.
I've never been shot off my board before, but yeah.
Yeah, well,
Jump
not
on your tail,
at the
leave your
level
nose
you're
at the
talking
same
about.
time.
I know what you're saying. I
Yeah.
know, I'm kidding. Bamboo, not a good thing for impact resistance. Is that what you're saying?
The bamboo factory I went to in China, myself, I got sick there. And I don't know if it was the relation to that or it was just heat stroke because it was very hot.
Okay.
But the reality is that the amount of smoke coming out of the smokestack and that perspective, it was not an environmental visit.
Okay.
Okay. You could say it grows quick. Hey, here's this piece of bamboo. It's this big. Okay, well, we're going to take, you see like an orange slicer and it slices an orange into 8 pieces, right? So they basically take a piece of bamboo, they shove it through a piece like that. They have all these like moon-shaped pieces. Now you got to take that and plane the top and bottom of it, plane the sides of it to get a rectangle out of it. So mass-wise, you just took 50% of the mass away and turned it into fiber. But you're really lucky because you need some heat in your process and you can burn it with no environmental control and solve all your problems. It's got plenty of heat. Okay, so the it's part of the environmental brainwashing thing that happens, like, oh, we're being environmental, right? So that's why earlier I talked about a tree. Letting a tree die in the forest is not being environmental. Okay, if it's a redwood, it can last thousands of years. A hard maple tree, 150 years old, it's done. It's like, I'm tired. It's going to fall over. Because a tree will rot from the middle, depending. But a redwood is really resistant to rot, right?
Maple's only 150 years. It's a long time,
200.
but yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
But it's
yeah,
not,
yeah.
a pine tree can last 500 years.
Okay.
You know? Maple tree can't.
500
You know?
years.
So it's that whole thing of what's environmental, right? So like what's going on now in building is they're building skyscrapers with wooden beams instead of steel beams. Okay, and they're laminated. They're making plywood out of lumber.
No, they're not.
Yeah, they are.
They're making skyscrapers with wood?
20, 30 stories is where it's at right now.
Bro, I don't want to be anywhere near that skyscraper.
Flammable.
What do you mean?
Yeah.
They're nanotubes.
I
They're
don't
so good.
care, Paul. I don't want to be near that.
Okay, the layers of glue.
Okay.
They're figuring out what we already know for skateboard.
Whew.
Mother Nature makes some badass shit. We
That's
use
true.
It.
That's true.
I heard they're making hemp
that's what-
homes now too.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Hemp homes.
hemp homes.
I haven't heard about hemp homes. How do you get a hemp home?
You got to look it up. I don't know where to get, but I've seen him.
So is this folklore?
No,
This
no.
is your perception or is this real?
No, this is real.
Okay.
Yeah. Hemp homes.
Hemp home.
Yeah,
They'd weigh a lot.
they weigh a
sounds
lot,
like. Yeah.
and they you can't burn them down.
You know.
Yeah.
Are you supposed? There's no
Dude, I'm
people.
telling
Well, if you
Go look
densify
it
your
up.
hemp with
I mean,
enough
it's
cement
super
or
dense.
It's
resin
super
or something.
dense. Yes.
Super
Why not
dense.
just build out of concrete?
I don't know. There's a reason. There's
Okay.
a reason behind it.
We
Believe
got it. We got it. We're gonna take our hemp fibers. We're gonna tear them up. We're gonna mix them in with the concrete. We're gonna 3D print those homes. We're gonna have our hemp 3D printed home with cement. Because you don't need a lot of hemp. You just need enough.
Okay.
Okay. You just need enough fiber to hold it together.
Yeah, I don't know if there was any concrete in this process.
I
but
have
yeah.
a feeling there probably was.
Yeah,
Or something else.
possibly.
Because
We'll look it up.
volumetrically, it'd be hard.
That's why they were. I mean, it was supposed to be really expensive. So
Yeah.
I don't think there's going to be too many people doing
Yeah.
it. anytime
So is the
soon.
only reason for that is for not burning down? Is that kind of
I'd have to look it up again.
yeah?
Yeah.
Hemp homes. It just sounds. It's catchy.
Yeah.
Hemp,
I
hemp.
thought it was pretty catchy. I should have paid a little more attention.
Got your attention, but you didn't dive
Yeah,
deep.
I didn't dive deep enough for sure.
Yeah. So now I got lost. Where were we before the hemp homes?
We were,
Just thought I'd sprinkle that in there.
well, we were talking about how difficult the
Oh,
process
environmental.
is. Oh, environmental.
Okay,
That's right.
so
that's
so
right,
glue.
That's right, that's right.
So
Glue.
to be clear, that if we're going to use a fiberglass or a carbon fiber to get them to work properly, you have to saturate them with resin. So that's petroleum-based products for the most part. There are some sap-based resins that are amazing, by the way, but they cost more money, you know, and you got to be committed to that's what we're doing, right? So what happens is you add these materials and then you got to process them. So it's a combination of both, you know. So with the boards I was doing with Cordano that were fiberglass reinforced, they were only fiberglass reinforced on the rail from truck to truck. That was it.
In
Not the whole board.
not
Because
the whole board.
if I put it in the whole board, the board's going to be a tank.
Okay.
He doesn't need a fiberglass reinforced tail. The tail's not breaking already. What do we need to reinforce it for? But that has its own processing challenges, right?
So you're saying at this moment in time, what we have going on is pretty sustainable compared to what we could be doing if we changed our
As long as
up
we
the
keep on
routine?
making stuff out of it and not letting it go into landfill, it's good. This is environmental at such a level because it's not letting the carbon go up in the atmosphere, right?
So
Not letting it rot.
This is doubling up on our YouTube community question too. Is like user QU5XL. I don't even know. Would there ever be a way to implement a sustainable recycle program for skateboard parts? What's the best way to dispose of old gear like wheels, boards, and trucks? Have you heard of anything?
Get DIY, right? Start melt your trucks down and throw some aluminum cans in there and make something else with it. But,
Art.
But that's going to take some heat, right? Do you have the heat source to generate that much heat to melt aluminum? Well, as long as it's not too hot, you won't melt the steel. You'll be great. You'll melt the aluminum out real easy. You know, if you're getting really serious about your heat melting steel, that's a whole another level of heat.
So at this point in time, there's no actual recycling. There was somebody who was doing recycle wheels, right? Satori, I think. They were
Satori
doing the
does it.
recycle
Satori
wheel
did something
stuff.
for a while where they laved them down.
Yeah.
The hardest reality is you look at how much freight costs now, and you send a little package to somebody. Mm-hmm. Yeah, send one skateboard across the country costs $15.
More than that.
So send me this back so I can make this out of it. No, do it local. Make
Right.
something out of it local.
Right. So
So
you got
whenever you can do local, you're gonna win.
That's a good suggestion, though. I think if you really want to recycle your stuff and not only, I mean, just find somebody local that maybe wants to make their jewelry or art or whatever. That's
Right.
Yeah, that's the best way to do it. Okay.
Yeah.
This is a question from Instagram. This is from Deadbeat037. How much wood does a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood?
I don't know because I'm not a woodchuck.
Okay. I'm glad we cleared that up.
A truckload of skateboard wood can be about 10, 11,000 skateboards in a truck.
Okay.
You can't even fill the truck volumetrically because the density of the maple is so high.
It's actually answering
The people on the highway won't let you drive it. You can't drive the truck on the highway.
Right.
Weighs too much.
dense.
Oh, okay. That's the answer. All right.
That's
I've been
why.
wanting.
Yeah, that's what.
But if you're in Wisconsin and it's frozen, you can drive a truck double the weight when the ground's frozen because it won't damage the road because it's frozen.
But a woodchuck.
Wow.
we can't drive that truck to California because it's not frozen here.
Was it woodchuck
But
or
why-
wood truck?
No, woodchuck.
Woodchuck.
But
I
how?
said
but,
woodchuck, but,
Yeah, but
it
you
made
turned
me
it
think
into-
of a truck. A truck on the wood, right?
But I guess a woodchuck can't chuck wood. But if he could, well, let's move on to the next
Well,
one.
no, but the woodchucks do chuck wood.
Yeah.
But the truck.
They cut down the trees and they build dams and stuff.
Yeah. Woodchuck.
The animals got it.
I don't even know what a woodchuck
they're
looks
like,
like.
I need some nanotubes to hold this water back.
You're thinking
so
of a
that me
beaver.
and my
A
family.
beaver.
You're thinking of a
Yeah.
beaver, though.
Is that a woodchuck?
Sure, I am thinking of that, but isn't a woodchuck a beaver?
I don't know. I have no
could-
idea.
A woodchuck's a beaver right
I
now.
could be wrong.
A woodchuck could just be a philosophical creature.
It
But
could
listen,
be. It could be
I think
possibly.
it might be.
Okay, let's move
might
on.
be.
Max from our Discord wants to know, like, what do you think of the Andy Anderson shape experimentals? I think a lot of people ask that question too. What do you think of the Andy Anderson board?
I think it's fabulous. I think the willingness to try anything and have a reason and a purpose. You look at how unique Andy skates. It's amazing, right? And if he feels this works for him, it works for him. The hardest thing about a skateboard, there's the mechanical aspect, which is where I work, but there's the mental aspect. You got to look down and feel good about what you're looking at. If you don't feel good about what you're looking at, you tell it to ollie a curb, it's just not going to work, right? Now, also, if the math isn't within a range, it's not going to work as well. The mental control of I'm connected, you know, and whether that's because it has this crazy shape and you like it, you know, these unique things. But Andy explains each piece, and if you ask Christian Hosoi about a hammerhead and why he's got a story for every little piece of what he made, when he made it, why he did it. Okay, so whether anybody else can see it, he saw it, and it became iconic.
True.
Andy saw it; it's becoming iconic, right? Didn't Roger bring us an Andy board here?
There's an Andy board right,
Right?
there. Roger loves that thing, by the way.
Oh yeah.
So is this Roger? Is this your personal board?
That's one of them.
One of them, okay.
Roger got 18.
Pretty warped right now.
Yeah. There's one wheel not on.
Raj, how dare
That's
you?
it.
No
Or
wonder you
two.
haven't been skating well. No, I'm just kidding.
That's just trucks.
Could be the truck.
Oh, it could be the trucks.
Yeah, it's the trucks.
Yeah.
Are they straight? So here's a way to tell your trucks are straight. And I only have a tape measure today. I didn't bring a ruler. Should have brought a ruler, but anyways, we'll see if it's your trucks or not.
Oh, you want the yeah?
It's your back. Your back truck's way crooked.
Okay, I can fix that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm taking the tape measure here and I'm putting it across. So if you have a ruler, all the better. So you see that gap on the back truck?
I do. Coming up the.
It's parallel on the
yeah,
front truck. So the
right.
front truck's parallel. The back truck's not.
Yeah, that's a good way. I never thought of that.
Because
You did show us this last time, but yes.
But there's play with the bolts in the truck and the holes in the board, right? So what I always do is I snug down 2 bolts, not tight and hard, just snug them, and then I make sure it's straight, and then tighten it all
That's
the way.
what I do. Caddy corner. I go 1, 2, and then I
Right.
slowly rotate all the bolts in.
Yeah.
Do you think Powell took a big risk by producing this board that Andy wanted, or do you think that they knew that people would just follow Andy's lead and buy this
It's
board?
not a risk when you're trying to satisfy a serious skater.
Yes, but
The
there
problem
are.
is most businesses are trying to satisfy the bottom line,
But-
making payroll,
Right.
paying the expenses, making it work.
But
Making it
Paul, we
safe.
see it all the time where a skater has their board, but it's not a production board. It's just a board for them to ride.
But this
That's
has
because you
so
got to
many-
convince the salesman. You got to convince the guy in the shop. Andy doesn't need to be convinced. He knows it's right and it works.
He has a reason for all the things. About
I
that
know,
board.
but to tell that to introduce a new thing to the consumer is hard.
This is different than any other board
I
you've
know,
seen.
that's what
though.
I'm saying.
So I feel like
To
there's
take a
this-
risk on something like that and paying $80 in a skate shop to maybe have a good time on it or not.
when you have a skater like Andy
Yeah.
repping it, I think it speaks to people. And they're
Definitely.
Yeah.
You can see what
I see a lot of them out there.
Yeah.
I do too. I'm just asking a question. Like, I think it's fabulous that he did this. I'm not
Yeah.
putting anything. I'm just saying, like, for Powell to take a risk and put something new out into the market,
Right, but because they manufacture it themselves,
this is true.
they didn't have to convince anybody.
Right.
They decided they were going to do it, right? So everything that I ever did that made a difference in skateboarding, I didn't convince anybody. I just did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And I did it because I was in sync with the market, and the market took it because of that. Would somebody have done it a year or two later? Quite possibly.
Totally.
You know, because someone else had been paying aware of it, you know? So to me, it's a risk not to.
Yeah.
However, it's a risk to say, hey, 80% of the skateboards we're making are like this, and 20% are popsicles. That would be a risk.
I also think you nailed it too. Like, they make the boards themselves.
Right.
Like, it would be riskier if they had to go to you to make this board and
Yes.
develop it.
Well,
and-
none of my customers are saying, hey, I want $100 retail board.
Right.
What can you make it for?
Right.
They're not saying that. When they do, then I'll face it. But it's challenging. There's no doubt about it.
Right.
So this particular board is laminated together for epoxy. So to make epoxy of process efficiently, you need heat.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now you have to have heated molds in that system. Hard maple doesn't like heat. That's why our board's warping. You leave them in a trunk, right?
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't like heat. Okay. Why are there no trees in the desert? There's no
Because
trees
there's
in the desert.
sand. There's no water. Oh, it's hot.
Multiple reasons.
Lots of reasons.
Trees aren't growing out there.
Right.
But basically, there's fiberglass in here,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's set up in an orientation where the fiberglass is creating a bunch of the strength and it's letting it flex and pop back, you know? And it's a really good construction. I used to make boards with fiberglass. So back in '83 in Florida, I used to make foam core boards. And I would build a board I would build a 5-ply board, cut holes in it, put foam in it, put fiberglass and wood over the top of it. They were very light. They were tough. They were durable, you know? But they were expensive to make. Now, why did I make them? Because I wanted to make them. It wasn't an economic thing per se, you know? And there came a point after I moved to California where now skateboarding's serious. Grasso and Lucero decided they wanted to ride for my company, and then my company went kaboom. I didn't have time to make those things anymore, you know?
That was all in your free time and trying to
Yeah,
figure
that
out
was a
what
free
was going
time
to work.
figuring out what's
Yeah.
going to work, exactly.
You just mentioned pressed boards are hot. You mentioned hot and everything. And Danowski from our YouTube community posed this question. Maybe I don't understand the second part of this question. Maybe you could elaborate, or maybe you don't understand it. But he said, hot pressed or cold pressed boards?
So most skateboards made in North America are cold pressed.
Okay.
So that's where you take the Wood, you put glue on it with a machine, you put it in a press, you let it sit in a press for an hour, it absorbs the shape of things, and then you cure it for whatever your curing cycle is. For me, it's a week. Hot pressed is you put the skateboard in a mold, the press comes down, it's hot, and in 5 minutes you pull it out. It's like a filet mignon steak out of the microwave in 3 minutes. It's
No, not out of
fabulous.
the microwave.
Paul, do you treat your maple that way?
No.
Does one last
You
longer?
think Cordano could handle that? But the maple already got used just getting made into a skateboard.
So this might actually answer the question to the second part of his question was like, so he said, I've been to so many factories in China, but their boards don't scoop. Is that the glue? Does China do hot press boards? Is that what
China's
you're
hot
saying?
press for the most part.
That's it.
Yeah.
Hot press. And what do you? And that messes
it's
up
price
the
and efficiency.
and that messes
So
up the nanotubes, right?
So to be clear, if we go back to the 70s,
Okay.
hot pressing was used and cold pressing was used. In the 80s, Powell and Santa Cruz hot pressed. Everything else was cold press. Most everything was cold press. So Vision was, Taylor and Dykeman was, Watson was, Madrid was. So there was this divide. Now, what happened is that as we got out of the 80s, NHS moved away from hot pressing, and Powell eventually moved away from hot pressing as well.
Okay.
Within a year or two of that. And then everything was cold pressed. Well, the late 90s come along, and China starts to play a role. They're like, well, they hot press that.
We're going to
That's
be
what they do.
efficient. We're going to
be
make
efficient.
we're going to make
We don't
triple,
care.
quadruple the boards you
we
guys
don't
make.
care about the quality. We care about this, right?
Yeah.
So hot pressing got run out of skateboarding,
Okay.
and then the consumer got duped and said, "Oh, well, what do you mean?" I mean, I had a factory in China for years, and when I started the factory, I started to laser engrave the boards in the United States. People loved them, and then when I made them in China, and they said made in China, they're like, "No, take the China off." And I'm like, "Well, U.S. Customs says we need to have this." Well, nobody else is doing it. Take it off. So brands wanted the right, but the brands are trying to survive. Realize that because the price of a board hasn't gone up, right? And then the price of direct screen printing, heat transfer, reduced the cost to decorate it, which just gave the margin to still operate and survive as a brand.
So you're telling me that no brands in North America do hot pressed?
Not that I'm aware
No,
of. Not in
no
quantity.
brand. Not brands. No,
Right.
no factories.
I believe Powell hot presses this because you can't really you can't process epoxy.
We're talking about Andy Anderson's board, and
Right.
that's a whole different beast
Yeah, but
that
it's
we're
flight
talking about,
construction.
right?
But
it's a
flight
different-
construction, what George wants to build. He doesn't want to build regular boards.
Right.
He wants to build these.
I was going to ask, what's the difference of like this? The hot or cold press last longer, or is there like? Can you tell right away how different it is?
Yeah, because basically the hot press stuff has a very brittle crystalline glue. And when you tap it, it sounds great. Just every time you tap it, you break your tubes. So I talk about Cordano breaking his tubes, right? Well, with a hot press board, you're breaking the tubes. Mm-hmm. And a couple of days later, you're like, this board's no good anymore. It's just like...
Because it's already been exposed to what wood doesn't like is heat.
It's exposed to what wood doesn't like, but also the glue that works with that process is
right.
crystalline in nature, where the polyvinyl is flexible in nature.
Oh, so we're talking about multiple factors.
Right, multiple factors, exactly.
Okay.
Because the glue that's cheap glue versus expensive glue, right?
Right.
What does the cold press board feel like?
That proper sound.
Okay, I've just never really compared. I guess I never really thought about it, to be honest, personally. I just kind of like try a board, and if it works, I go with it. But if it doesn't, I'm on to the next thing. I'm not like, oh, this is
a lot of people
press.
have that. I got to throw it on the ground and stand it out. A lot of people got to tap it on the ground, and it's got to sound right to me. And if you say, "What's that sound?" How do you define it? I got this. I sense it, right? Like skaters sense things. It's crazy because with skateboarding, you're literally a mathematician. To get it right, to get onto that obstacle, that rail, that whatever, with your body position and your board, the amount of math. If you were a robot and you had to put that in code, it's code from here to Huntington Beach.
In hindsight, I wish
to even do that manual right there, right?
In hindsight, I wish I would have been more, paying attention
Me too, bro.
because it might have elevated my skating a little bit.
I know.
You know what I mean?
I know. It's too late now, Dubs.
It's never too late.
No, it's not too late.
Never too late. But
Just keep
It's too late for me.
dude.
It's
Keep
too late for me.
practicing,
I'm
Dubs.
done.
I'm 60. For me, it's too late to elevate. I can accept that. I'm just happy to push, carve, and grind. And if I can flow and go, because really the best part of skateboarding is like you got some vibration through your feet, some air on your face.
cruising.
and
Yeah.
Right, yeah,
you
it's
decided what you're riding, where you're at, who you're with and what you're going to do with it.
So true.
So you said that a cold pressed board takes a week to cure
Yeah.
in the machine?
No.
Oh, so you press it.
Only
How
in the
long?
machine for an hour.
Oh, only an hour. How many psi is it pressing?
Around 150.
150 psi, and how many boards are you doing in that?
Depends on the mold. Could be 3, 4, 5.
So you're doing 3
Fours
or
are average.
So if you do 4 boards, an average of 150 psi,
Yeah.
and it takes an hour in the mold. How many molds are you working with then? How many are
Right
you
now
spinning?
we're running 32.
You have 32 molds.
Yeah, we had double. I got the other part in storage. So we had 80. So we're running 32 right now where the market's at.
So you're cranking boards out left and right, and when we're talking about the press and the mold, it's just a square
Right.
veneers
Yeah.
pressed together.
Yep.
The world boards in the early 90s, what were those
Yep.
cold pressed?
Yeah.
That's what, because they were brittle and they would break all the time. I mean,
Well, part of the world breaking boards in that era was they had no concave. They had no structure. So they would break behind the back truck.
yeah.
Right? I didn't build skateboards that would break behind the back truck. They would break in front of the back truck or in the middle of the board. Right? Because structurally I knew that wasn't good, but there was an aspect that whatever decisions were made by Steve or Rodney that this is what we need to progress skateboarding forward. And they progressed it forward, right?
For sure.
You know?
That was prime wood, right?
Yeah,
Prime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And I understood Prime might have had some hot pressing, but I know they had cold pressing as well.
It was majority.
Well, they made other wood products before they got into skateboards.
Ah.
So they made skateboards in the 70s and then got out of it and then got back into it in the 80s.
Well, on Instagram, Mark Kowalchuk wants to know too. And
That's an artist in Canada, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
you already
That
know.
artist.
What's the most popular veneer color?
There is no popular.
Really? People don't
There's-
request certain veneer colors.
It's more about the hated color.
Oh, red.
Oh.
Red's the most hated. Okay,
Yes, we all
red's the
know
most
that.
hated.
Wow.
Some people, yellow's the most hated, but there's no most love.
Nobody really says like, "Hey, we
I
want."
love yellow, dude.
I love purple. I love like a purple or blue. That's
Yeah,
my,
well, the dark
I
colors
feel
show the
like
wood grain the best, so they have that connection to the tree, right?
I feel like the blue or purple veneers are stronger.
If you perceive it,
Yeah.
it must be true.
I think
Right?
that just sounds.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, that just sounds weird.
So no different color of the
The yellow's
veneers.
better, right, Kelly?
I just like, for me, looking down, like you said, when you look down, you gotta like what you see.
You gotta like what you
preference.
see.
and that's
Okay.
just like, oh, cool, I
It's
like
preference.
that. Yeah.
You're a professor. You're Professor Schmitt. You don't know if a color dye affects the veneer strength.
It's not affecting the strength.
Nothing does.
Same,
Okay,
yeah.
it's the same across the board.
Yeah.
Are you sure?
If we were resin infusing the wood, but then it'd be denser and heavier,
yeah.
and then the nanotubes might be clogged, and then it won't have the same pop.
Damn nanotubes.
You don't
man.
want them nanotubes like that.
Well, you wish the nanotubes were all clogged on the edge of your board. And I've done that before where I've sealed boards of epoxy on the edge.
Yeah, but it's just going to get beat down.
No, but it doesn't beat down as fast.
Okay.
So if
Oh,
anybody
so
wants to
you're
make their board last longer, take your board,
No.
sand the paint off, and take epoxy and do a couple layers on it like that.
You serious?
Yeah, you densify it. It will soak in. Take the epoxy, mix it with some acetone, so it's really thin, and the acetone will pull it in the fibers of the wood. The nanotubes will go
Really?
fill them up with resin. Yeah,
Damn.
Why don't?
it's not a production efficient thing.
Well,
It's
okay.
a personal thing.
You do
So
it for
you would
yourself.
never do that in production.
No. But
Why?
This is something Roger would do, right?
Yeah, Roger's going. He's ordering
he's-
epoxy
yeah, yeah.
online right now.
what do you think, Roger?
I'm done. Try it.
I told you he's on Amazon,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
ordering
yeah.
10 gallons of epoxy.
Yeah, just get some 5-minute epoxy. You can do it really quick.
Okay.
But if you mix it with acetone, it will thin out, and then it will really soak
Oh,
in.
that's what we were looking for. Not,
and then,
not
and,
do
then,
it.
and then you can do a layer on the outside. So when it's in the wood is one thing than when it's on the wood. So even as you take a piece of wood, we make a skateboard, we put a coat of sealer in it. The sealer soaks in the wood. Then we sand it smooth and we put a gloss coat, and the second coat sits on the wood.
Couldn't you mix epoxy in with the glue? Epoxy's a
Epoxy is a
glue. Right.
Right. The problem is the epoxy working it with a water-based epoxy or water-based glue. That's
Okay.
the problem.
You use water-based glue because for environmental
Environmentally and process efficient.
process
both.
efficient. Okay. Two birds, one stone.
Right.
Gotcha.
Because when I was in Florida, 100% of skateboards I made in Florida were made of epoxy.
Oh, seriously?
They were all 100% hand laid up.
Oh.
So what got me to California was making skateboards out of epoxy. So I know epoxy very, very well. And then having built sailboats,
Yes.
I knew epoxy and fiberglass well and polyester resin well. And the things that are great about them and the things that aren't.
Been there,
It's
done
so
that.
interesting. I had a quick thought. I wrote it down because like we were talking about earlier. We were talking about and we should come back to this wheelbase 6-foot person. And I love your chart here. Can somebody download this if they wanted to and tack it up? Maybe you should do that.
If you go to go to Instagram, just go #CreateEskate height chart. You'll find everything I've ever shared on it.
Okay.
So,
But it'd be cool if they could download it and print this out and then put it up.
I haven't set up infrastructure
Okay.
for that. I probably should.
Yeah. Because my question is, I feel like the consumers are now getting wise to the board shapes and the wheelbase, and they're more wise than we were back in the day because
very clearly.
because of you, because of the Ben DeGros out there, because of the people who are teaching people about all this stuff, right? So I feel like
but
the
also
consumers.
the reality is the world's become a little bit more technical, and we all
Right.
walk around with one of
With the
these,
phone.
right? So this technical awareness, the things that I might have said 20, 30 years ago that flew over people's heads, don't fly over people's heads anymore.
Resonating.
Because you can Google something and find a plausible answer. It used to be like, hemp homes, yeah, right,
Hemp homes, we don't know about that.
But when we Google hemp homes, we're going to find something. We're going to think this is a joke, or it's plausible, or it's feasible, or it's happening in this region of the world. Because they got so much hemp, they don't know what to do with that in that region of the world, right? But you don't live in that neighborhood. It's not that way for you, right?
No.
I guarantee you there will be comments filled up in the comment section of this episode saying that people want different wheelbases according to their height, which they can't get right now.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. I think the consumer's becoming more wise to all this and they want that. But it's up to the companies to give into that and
It's
invest in that.
It's part of it as a consumer being, I'm more concerned about my product than the newest, flashiest graphic. That's the hard reality. Because in the skateboard business, it's hard to sell what's old, and it's easy to sell what's new.
Come on, bro. Graphics suck these days. They're not. It doesn't. They're not like what they used to be. You know.
I know some
You
cool
think
ones
so?
coming out.
I don't think there are some cool ones.
I think the
You're right.
opposite.
You're right on that.
Yeah.
I don't think. I look at the skateboard wall at a skate shop, and I just don't see any. I mean, some are cool. Don't get me wrong. I should not say everything's
Yeah.
whack. That's
Right, but
that's not
but in my
right.
viewpoint, skateboarding is better than it's ever been. Like all disciplines of skateboarding are done, like Andy doing freestyle, right?
Oh,
like
that's
like
amazing.
downhill, slalom, pools, skate parks, half pipes, street, backyard pool. Doesn't like it's so wide and diverse. And then the graphics are the same thing. It's real wide and diverse. The issue you don't have is you don't have that iconic
Mike
Lucero
Valley graphic,
or
the
Valley
Lucero,
graphic
right?
that was on the wall for 2 years
Exactly.
because it was that good, and people are impatient now. Like, I don't want that thing. It's been around for 3 months.
That's my
Yeah.
point with the graphics being not as good as they used to be because of the burn and turn mentality that the skate companies have. You know,
Right.
they have like this drop, then the next 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 drop, and you're like, we're not even halfway through the year, and you've already done like 8 drops.
right.
Like,
Those graphics got to resonate on that wall. You go in there, you'd go into a skate shop like seriously like 5 times in a matter of a year and a half, and you'd see the same board. So that's why, I mean, for me now, seeing those graphics, those retro graphics come back, I'm like, dude, this is like warping me back into that time.
Yeah,
Right.
'Cause I remember those
Your
youth.
youth. I want to become young again, right?
Yeah, well,
But the landscape is now you walk into a skate shop one week and you walk in the next week and there's a whole different style. There's a whole different graphics
Yeah.
up there, and that's why I'm saying like I feel a lot of it's a burn and turn mentality. Like we just got to get these graphics out there,
Right.
Like
So as the consumer voting with your dollars and saying, here's what I want, right? But it's hard because in a sense, I have all the time people going, well, can you give me your advice and customize this? And I almost can't. I don't have enough time in my life
Right.
to go customize everybody's setup, but the reality is there's certain people I work with that I interact with where it's I get something out of it too. It's like I get the joy of it to start with. Cordano is a joy to work with, And, like Mike Sinclair. Happy birthday today, Sinclair. He's 52.
Happy birthday,
Hey,
Hey, that's so sick.
Sinclair.
And I talked to him yesterday about something, and I helped give him some perspective on things. And he comes to my shop and says, hey, can you help me with this? And we're trying to help him tune in what he's doing. And it's a pure joy,
Right.
you know?
Right.
But he also has done the same thing for me for concaves in the past.
Right.
Oh, this works for me, this doesn't work for me, right? Like we have that product development relationship, you know?
How do we get to the point where the boards are customized to the person, though? I think because I'm sitting
that's
here.
the more DIY neighborhood kind of thing.
But is it though? I guess you're right at this point because like I'm 6 foot, and just by you sitting here, I want to try a 15-inch wheelbase board. Maybe I might not stick to it, but like I want to try to. I've never changed my wheelbase. I never even had control over my wheelbase.
Right. So you're conditioned by what you grow up with. So to be clear, that someone that's long established like yourself, it's hard to go into change.
Okay.
Why do I ride 16-inch wheelbase? I'm off the chart because if you're from the 70s, add an inch.
Oh, you have a disclaimer down there.
Disclaimer at the bottom, right? Like I started in the 70s. That's where I'm conditioned from,
Okay.
right? You know, and as much as I'm tall and everything, that's really where I'm at. But you could try it, and if you were going to go skate a pool or a half pipe, you would feel much better on it, I guarantee. But in a street manual thing, I don't think so.
You don't think it would make a big difference?
I don't think it's going to make a big difference for you.
But you have a whole chart here.
But if you're jumping downstairs and you're falling off the front of your board all the time,
Okay.
your wheelbase is too short.
So it doesn't apply.
If you're jumping down stuff and your knees are knocking against each other, they're knocking because your legs aren't far enough apart because your wheelbase is too small.
Paul, my knees have
And
never knocked
The
together.
minute your knees knock together, you're out of balance. You're done, right?
It doesn't apply to your height then.
No, it does.
It apply. But you just said I'm 6
puts you
foot,
in
but
the
it doesn't
zone.
apply to my manuals and my ledge skating.
Based on the type of skating you do.
Right.
But I'm saying my personal thing from my experience was I wouldn't try to change you.
Right.
You're not the skater that needs it.
Yeah,
if
but
you were
Paul-
Jaws jumping off a roof, I would say lengthen your wheelbase. That's not who you are.
I know, but I think that like
I know you want to be that, but
Would you say what a ledge skater or a manual type dude would have shorter wheelbase?
well, we'll keep on getting complicated. What trucks are you riding?
Oh, I'm in Thunders.
Okay, well, we'll put you on a shorter wheelbase. You'll be better.
Okay.
What trucks are you riding?
independent thunders.
Okay. That's your problem. You need a longer wheelbase now that you're riding indies. Your Thunders, you don't need a longer wheelbase.
Okay. I'm
You can
glad you
change
cleared that
3/8, half of an inch just by the brand of the truck. Your actual wheelbase. So we sell a skateboard on the wheelbase and the truck holes, right? The real wheelbase is the center of axle.
Paul.
I know it's complicated.
No, I get frustrated because where is this information being kept? If I'm a consumer and I want to know everything that you're talking about here with the trucks and the shorter wheelbase and the Thunders and the thing, there's nowhere I can go to be like, okay, I skate Thunders and this is what there's. You don't understand what I'm saying?
No, I understand what you're saying.
Like, I don't understand why there's no website like Create a Skate or something like that has
Or
a
it
database.
says it on the website for the trucks.
There you go too,
Yeah,
right?
it can just say
the
it on
truck
there.
companies
Yeah.
don't.
Well, I remember
advertise
doing
this.
something about some different trucks a while ago
really
in a
did.
post, and it got lots of interest. And
What was it?
the fuck with the truck, your guys were on Instagram were like, wow, all those people were super excited about it. I'm like, well, and they're like, well, why doesn't each company tell us? And like, Indy's job is to say we're indie, we're fucking badass. Fuck you, okay?
Whoa, the
And Venture's
nanotubes,
like,
the
Venture's
nanotubes,
like,
Paul, the nanotubes.
Venture's like, we're cool, we're hip, we're fresh. Come with us.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
They're so
It's the
distracted.
image.
They're so distracted by marketing that the substance of their product is not part of their discussion. Now, those are both brands that make great product. They've made great product for decades, right? So we have no debate, no doubt in them. But the reality is, they're still a brand,
Right.
and they're not marketing that, right? They're not marketing the comparative. They're just sort of saying, our ego's the best, right? We got the best team riders. We won this event. Our guys are in the best videos, skater of the year, whatever it is, right?
Do you think that indies have a better, like, for transition skating or for, like, ledge skating?
I know a lot of great street skaters who ride indies.
Yeah.
Right? So it's
for
not,
sure.
It's
But
not that. I mean, I would say when it comes to half pipe or bowl, there's the older school guy like me has that preference. I mean, I rode indies for years, but last year I've been riding slappies.
Okay.
And
Are those
I'm
how do
loving
those
them.
how do those relate to a Thunder or an Indy?
The wheelbase is just a little bit bigger than a Indy, not by much. I think was it a 16th of an inch or 1/8? I did some stuff with Sinclair a while ago, and he's going to put something out. So pay attention to Slappy Trucks, because he's trying to say, have fun with us, and here's where we're at. But basically, Slappy's in the middle.
Okay.
That's the reality. And that was Sinclair's intention when he started, is I want to be in the middle. I don't want to lean one way. I don't want to lean the other way. I want to be in the middle. But the reality is that what bushings are you using, how much you tighten them down, all those things affect your wheelbase. They all affect your function. And everybody figures out what they like. They just don't know why, and they don't realize how much this piece is interacting with that.
I love you, Paul, but you fuck with my head so much, dude. You know what I mean? Because like I think a lot of people out there want to experiment, and I never was an experimenter when it came to my board. But like just talking to you and sitting with you, I want to experiment. You know, do I want to go through the turmoil of having a bad session? No, but I feel like I want to explore the trucks and the wheelbase and this and that. You know what I mean? Because like I think any skater out there, if I can skate just a little bit better, it's a win. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
if you feel
that's
better, that's what matters.
If you feel better,
if you feel
totally, and it equates down to your gear.
Right.
If I'm wearing my shoes and I'm looking down at my shoes and I don't like what I'm looking at, that's going to affect me.
Oh yeah. No,
if I don't like my board and I'm looking there and I'm and in back of my head I'm like, if I only have 15-inch wheelbase board, maybe that's the problem. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I think a lot of people out there struggle with this type of stuff too. You know,
The madness, dude.
the madness,
Dude.
right. Well, you hear the board madness thing, and people talk about it, right?
Right.
As I said earlier, the board always gets blamed for the board madness, but it's a combination of everything.
for sure.
You know,
for
it's
sure.
a combination of everything. But the board can solve it easier than the other parts can, and it can also run it astray easier. So just to be clear, you know. So
Yeah. Oh, I'm just saying, I love it. I love the talk and I love it, everything. But I leave these conversations more confused than ever, which I shouldn't be. I should just stick with what I like and just roll with it. You know?
So what I always tell people when I work with them, it's like, just don't think of, just go skate. You can think about it after you skate and your own environment and your own thing. Like when people come work with me and they skate my crusty parking lot, there's nothing fancy about that, right?
Totally.
It's raw. It is what it is. But their own environment's their own thing, and then let your thoughts be, right?
I mean, if I can't do the tricks that I normally do and they feel off, then I just get pissed.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is. And I always is the board. But the good thing is once you find that board and it works, it's like you feel this relief of finding that. But sometimes it takes forever. Do you think that over time, as people get older, that like they naturally have to find a new shape?
So I always see pros like, I've been riding this shape for 15 years. It's like, your brand's been through 5 factories in 15 years. You're not really riding the same shape.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It might be the same profile looking down at it.
The same press, different press.
Different press, different factory, variables, right? Was it close? Quite possibly, I just know that if as a scientific, if I say exact, it's not exact. No way. It's hard for me to make exact because I'm dealing with organic materials. When I open up that mold, when I close the mold, it goes, and then I let go and it goes, and where it goes to is where it goes to.
Okay.
And this is controlled by temperature and humidity and the moisture content of the wood and all these variables that we control.
Sure.
And that we understand. But they're still there,
Have your boards been consistent through all these years?
I feel so.
Yeah.
I feel so. But, to say it's perfect, no. It's like, I made so many of them. In my factories in my career, made over 19 million boards.
Jeez.
Oh, my.
So to say it's consistent, no, I'm not consistent with what I built in Florida. I'm not consistent with what I built at the Vision Shop. When we did the New Deal reissues a couple years back, and I analyzed old boards and, made new templates for them and that kind of thing, they aren't as good as I thought they were.
Why?
Right?
Why?
Because my standards have continued to raise.
Gotcha.
Right? That's the reality. And just the standard of the marketplace as a whole. A skateboard is a highly refined item.
Well, even
whether I built it or not.
Right.
The worst copycat is better than what I built 20, 30 years ago. Right?
Yeah.
That's
we
the
always
reality.
want to do better. We always want
Right.
to. Yeah. Wow. It's crazy, man. Well, let's take another question. Ashley Brown, 4754, wants to know, where do my socks go after I put them in the dryer?
You know, Ashley, I have that same problem sometimes.
They disappear.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't have an answer for that.
Okay. What about Ben Nickel asks, of all the many boards Paul has designed, is there a favorite shape or design that he's most proud of or has a fun backstory about how it came to be?
Well, the crazy thing about, so skaters think of shapes, right? And they look down and they see the shape. I think of the mold, the surface, the combination of it
How
all.
to produce this thing.
How to produce it and how to get it to be there. So why I say that is I just see it differently. Like it's pretty easy for skaters to see a shape. They don't see the math that makes the mold work to make it happen. And so I really not big on favorites, and I really don't have great memories. If I go back to my Schmitt Stix brand, I didn't make the shapes. Chuck Holtz loved making shapes. Like, you like making shapes? That's good, because he wouldn't pack a box for nothing. He didn't want to print boards, didn't want to glue them up. He did glue them up, though. And why I say that, it's like people get into their zone, right? And my zone is whatever I have to do. So literally in the 80s with the Schmitt Stix era, I really didn't make shapes. And we made the yardstick board, we just made a longer ATV, right? And Chuck worked with the skaters and made shapes. And then when we started New Deal, I still in that era didn't really do shapes. I've only been doing shapes the last 20 years. I would do the molds and the surfaces and the systems, the manufacturing processes. And it's like other people like doing the shapes. I'm like, go for it.
Well, let's flip the question and say, out of all the boards and all the manufacturing that you've done in producing these boards, what's your most favorite or proudest like innovation when it comes to like the progressing the manufacturing of the boards?
I'd say my most proud innovation is the standard of a skateboard is really high and really good. So it's not even specific, because you got to realize
glue
that,
or this
right,
or that,
it's,
or a cold press, or
if we go to the early 80s, you know, the people who made skateboards, they could care less if you left it in the front yard and the sprinklers went on at night and it was delam the next morning. They weren't going to spend money for waterproof glue.
Right.
And they didn't understand nanotubes and could care less about how they worked, you know. So it's really about raising the level, whether it's the quality of the glue, the curves of concaves, the structure. I mean, having a nose, you know, the K-grind might not even exist without it. The nose slide wouldn't exist without it, right? Like, it's crazy to look at it at that level, you know. But I didn't make the first upturn nose. There was a bonsai aluminum board in 75 that had nose and tail the same.
Damn.
Pressed aluminum.
really?
Yeah. Solid sheet.
Pressed
made that?
aluminum?
Bonsai.
Who's bonsai?
Exactly. Okay. They were a big brand back then, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh shit.
You're dropping bonsai.
But the barnyard board changed everything. No,
The barnyard changed it?
did the barnyard change? Yeah, they changed like the.
Well, it did. I said what Rocco did with the barnyard
Yeah.
is made the double kick be this is
the
it.
standard.
Right.
Right.
This is what
You know,
it
the
is, yeah.
reality is that like what I was pressing in the 80s, what I was pressing in Florida at 85, other people were sort of pressing in 87. What I was pressing, you know, in 87, they were pressing it. By the time in 89, if you weren't doing what I was doing, you couldn't sell a skateboard.
Oh yeah.
Like,
yeah.
you know, and then as we sort of came into Rocco's era of control, you know, of guidance, if you weren't following that popsicle mold, and that you couldn't sell a skateboard anymore.
Yeah.
You know, now you can sell an old school skateboard for someone that wants to go back, that wants
All
to get
day.
young again.
Yeah. It's come back.
Man, it's so crazy. How many boards did you say you've made over your lifetime?
Over 19 million.
19 million. How
In
do
the
you
factories.
know that?
Because it's
I mean,
math.
you have.
Pays attention to his.
I
gotta, like,
know,
every
but
year you got to at
bro.
least
I have a
count, right?
spreadsheet. I put
You
it
have
in.
a spreadsheet and just.
I mean, I can look up anything live that's happened in the last 20 years right now in my computer. But so this morning, looking up Cordano, 201 boards. It was actually 219 when I looked it up, but I know I put 18 in to make the form this morning. So I had to do the math, and it's 201, right?
Wait, so how many boards do you make in total, usually a day?
Me personally?
Or just your factory?
I mean, right now it's 600 a day. It's pretty mild.
600 is still...
600 is a
Right.
lot.
Wait, so in 2003, 2004, this is when you made 917,000? How many did you
Yeah, it
say?
was 920,000. There it was like, it was crazy because it was like, you know, over 20,000 a week, right?
Wow. And that factory was here
It was in Costa
in
Mesa.
Costa
yeah.
Mesa. Okay.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
And
That's-
401 was in the front offices.
Okay.
So if there's all these skateboard companies now, how come the wood shops are struggling?
Because there's people that make skateboards that don't contribute to skateboarding. Oh, it's cheaper over here.
Yeah.
You know, it's like people during COVID was interesting because I hadn't been in that situation where you can't make enough, you know, and I couldn't make enough, and I had to say, no, I can't make that, or I can't take on new customers. Well, where should I go? And I'm like, I don't know what to recommend because I don't see them at the skate park.
Is that what you mean? They don't contribute to skateboarding? Is it they don't skate?
But they're not an active participant.
Okay, yeah.
I'm still an active participant.
So board manufacturers in China, they have no affiliate. They just make skateboards, like they
People
make a
making product,
toy.
right.
They
They
have
don't-
nothing
Not
to do with
just China,
skateboarding.
not just
Yeah.
China.
No, but I'm just using them as an
But
example.
in general,
for sure.
but just to be clear,
Yeah.
you know, in my factory, I skate, Julio skates, Jose Cerda skates, right?
Yeah.
The rest of the factory doesn't skate. Sometimes we
Sure,
have skaters
sure.
work at the factory, you know.
But you guys are the heart of it, so
But
that's
we're the
why
heart of it.
Yeah.
We guide it.
No, definitely.
We lead everything to happen.
It's so interesting because I don't think well, a lot of skateboard companies don't even want the public to know where their boards are made.
Yeah, and I would say that my viewpoint was always years ago, if I go back to the 90s, I was trying to make the consumer feel that every brand had its own special high-tech factory. So would Black Label have Blacklight and Elmo would have Featherlight? Well, Black Label boards were tougher and stronger, a little bit heavier, because they weren't for ledge flippers, and they were for guys that didn't care if it stress cracked a little bit. They just was concerned it would break. And they were engineered that way.
Really?
But they were out of the same factory, out of the same mold.
It's so bizarre, man. I mean, it's just funny to me because, like, man, we're such a small community.
Yeah.
Skateboarding is small, dude. It looks like this huge industry, but we are so small. We're so tied together, but a lot of people don't know what the hell's going on behind the scenes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like a lot of skateboard companies, like a lot of the consumers would change their ways if they knew exactly where stuff was coming from, who was involved with this. That's why I think it's important to know that, like, you're behind your
Right.
manufacturing, right? Like,
No, that there's enthusiasts behind it. There's
yes,
no doubt about it.
exactly.
Exactly.
Yes.
And then you may not relate to that generation of enthusiasts as well. I don't expect the young kids to relate to me. I'm not their generation, right?
but it's not about relating. It's just
Yeah,
about
but there-
knowing.
but there
Yeah, the
is.
knowledge, though,
Okay.
is
to,
very...
to be clear, when I was a young kid and I went to my first trade show in January 1979 at Surf Expo, and I got to meet Stacy Peralta and Tom Sims and these great industry people, right, and athletes, and wow, this is amazing. And then I go there every year, and I met this guy, Brad Dortmund, who owned Vision, and he became my distributor selling my products. And I was like, man, he's an old man. He wasn't 30 yet. I'm 60 now.
No doubt.
Okay, right?
Right,
So it's
right,
sort of
right,
like
right.
if you see someone 5 or 10 years your senior, they're old when you're young, right?
I
guess
but at the same time, skateboarding's come to this place now. You can be at a session at the park, and you have people that are 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, and 60 in the same session socially interacting. It's amazing.
Truly.
Okay? You don't go to the baseball field and see a team of people playing baseball 5 generations,
Right,
5
right,
decades
right,
of people.
right,
You don't
right.
see that. You don't see a basketball team 5 decades of people. But with skateboarding, you do.
I guess I'm just thinking about my own. I'm older. I didn't. You're right. I didn't care.
But don't
I
worry,
didn't.
you'll never be as old as me, so be good.
Hopefully I will one day. But I just. Yeah, I guess you're right. I didn't care when I was little. I didn't go into Rip City to buy my first board, being like, who's manufacturing this blind board? Is it Professor Schmitt or is it somebody that in the skateboard? And like, I didn't
Right,
care. I didn't
right.
even care about who came before me. You know,
Right.
I didn't care about the history. So I guess my next question is: do we know? Do you have the demographics? I mean, you're the manufacturer. I guess maybe you don't have the demographics of who's actually buying skateboards at skate shops. Is it the 12-year-old kids through 20, or is it the 20 through 30, or is it the 30 through 40?
Yeah,
like
I-
who's?
I really don't have those demographics.
Yeah,
You know, it's like I see who I interact with on Instagram a little bit, and that gives me something. But because I represent so many generations of skateboarding, it's all over. You know,
Right.
the little kids, you know, see me from Crate of Skate at Camp Woodward. You know, someone else sees me. Oh, that was that guy on Fuel TV years ago, and someone else sees me as Schmitt Stix, and you know, it just
It's
depends.
interesting.
Right?
It's interesting because I don't know if we're an industry that has we don't have that data.
Right.
I guess.
Yeah, and part of me, as much as I'm math and data, I don't care about that data. Are people excited and having fun? That's all that really matters.
Basically.
Let's just be clear, right? Like, I don't care what their age is. Are they having a good time? That's all that matters.
Yeah, I'm just a numbers guy. I'd like to know these things, I think. I don't know. It's fascinating. It's fascinating to know. But you're right, though. Well, if you're having fun, that's the main thing. That's why we all started skateboarding.
That's why we're here.
That's why we're here.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
No, it's so fascinating. Do you have other stuff? You brought some stuff with
I
you.
brought
What
a
do
couple
you?
things with me.
Please.
Some trying to answer
Can we
some
move
questions.
the Andy board off the? I
Well,
love Andy.
Let's
but-
just.
Oh, do you need it?
Let's
Okay.
analyze Andy's board first.
Okay.
Because someone asked about durometer and trying to understand durometers. So I brought a couple durometer gauges. They're a little
Ooh,
dusty.
Really? Dubs, look at that little briefcase. It's cute.
A little barometer. in there.
Yeah.
See this thing.
What the
They
hell?
haven't
what-
been calibrated
is
in a
that?
couple years, so I don't know how they are. But can you tell what durometer gauge that is?
I don't even know what I'm looking at, Paul.
Yeah, I don't-
Check that out.
Yeah. What is this?
looks like a little.
I can't tell you what barometer gauge this is.
It's a PT. Yeah, I don't know what this is. Do you put something on top of it?
So no, look at it.
Oh.
So read it
There's
here.
a-
So this one is an A durometer, type A. Okay, so
you
what I
see-
do
where
is I
you-
take this and dial this back,
Where are you seeing this?
and I roll it on the wheel.
Oh, you're piercing it.
I said I haven't calibrated these in a while. We'll see if
Paul,
it's
how do you
any
reset
good.
it?
I'm thinking I'm out of calibration on this one because it's telling me 90, and this wheel doesn't feel like a
We'll
90.
try
to
this
me.
one. This one was
So that's a D gauge.
calibrated by BJ. You might have a better
Okay.
better chance with that one.
Yeah, but look at the date on it, 99.
99.
Like I haven't used that. Yeah. So this is a D gauge, and that's looking 43D.
I don't understand this is a durometer of the wheel. These are
this
Powell.
is in the middle of the gauge, right? So the A gauge, I was like, I want 101, 110. The gauge only goes to 100.
I've lost you, dude. I have no idea what you're talking about right now.
If the gauge goes to 100, it's not going to be accurate at 99.
What are you getting there, Dubs? But the needle, it did move.
Oh, 90.
Oh, it's 90.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's out of calibration. I haven't calibrated it in years.
Those are Powell Dragons, Raj?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
93A.
93A.
Okay, so 90 is not that far off then.
Yeah. It's actually a little over 90.
It's funny because looking at them, I just assumed they were harder than they are. But when I do them the fingernail test,
A little softer.
you know, the classic one is like the old Dogtown ad where they're doing this. Yeah.
Oh, with they're biting it? Yeah. I've tried biting my wheels. Doesn't work.
You have?
I've bitten wheels before. No. You never bitten
right
your
now.
wheels?
These gauges
No.
are how they.
Why?
measure
Why would I
Ever-
buy?
You ever bit your gold wheels?
So when you mix the chemistry, you've got a goal that you're going to have, right? And your process control might include temperature and humidity. It might include a nitrogen blanket on top of your urethane
Talking to the mic.
to control it. You know?
So
Right.
and the result is this, right? So use a tool to check it.
what would those tools be used out in the real world for?
Checking the hardness on something.
Okay, so I could check the hardness of this table.
It's not
with
designed for that.
For your
What you just said.
Yeah, but it's not designed for that.
Oh, okay.
Paul, I have a old New Deal wheel right there.
right here.
Yep.
Okay.
Nude eels. There we go. A 55 millimeter nude eels wheel.
New deals. New deals.
New
Yep.
deals.
Okay, so what's the diameter? Oh, he's using the fingernail test. You really gonna?
93 to 95.
Okay, let's see.
Let's see what we got here. Definitely not the D scale. So I used the D scale on my Schmitt Stix wheels with aluminum hubs in them, and people were so confused by that
Yeah.
at that time.
The turbines.
Yeah, turbines and radials. Actually, here we're coming in 97.
Whoa. Has the wheel hardened over time? You think? Can I look at this whole thing?
There were two hardnesses. There were white ones and blue ones, and I don't remember which is which. Now that's a brand new wheel that has a cast surface on it that's old.
Come again?
It's a cast surface, so when you cast a wheel, it has a glossiness to it, right? Unless it's ground or cut. So the hardness rating is going to be a little bit different on that because it's got a like a rubber band around the outside, right? Where the ones that Roger was riding, has been sanded on the ground and there's no rubber band left.
Okay.
Oh, Paul, this is coming in, dude, like 96, 97.
Yeah.
Well, if you roll it really good,
Oh, you got to roll it.
yeah, you want to roll it on the
Okay,
wheel.
I thought you got to like.
Well, you want to make sure you get the surface contact all
Well,
the
now
way.
it's only 90.
You didn't do a good job.
You didn't roll it.
Shit.
Apparently, you're inadequate.
No.
Chris, bite it, dude.
I bet.
Come
Paul
on,
already,
dude. You said
he already bit it.
Oh, okay.
So that was also an
Oh,
engraved
yeah.
wheel,
Now it is.
and it wasn't printed, right? So that was our price point wheel. And we made the tooling for that to have that engraving and have that look. So we sort of took what was a 70s look and brought it back in the early 90s.
I don't know, Paul. This table is about 100 diameter.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Okay. Just tested it. Okay, so
Yeah,
you got
let
the
me test the
diameter.
table.
That's
Think
cool.
of the
That's cool.
diameter.
I don't know how.
You know, you were actually right,
I'd
Chris.
say-
We're getting close to 100.
That's it. What about what else you got? What else you got? Anything else cool down there? You want to share
so
with us?
somebody asked about concaves, right, and steepness. So
Okay.
I didn't get my weekend today to give these boards away, but Tanner wanted some boards that were symmetrical, and he liked one mold, but he wanted to try another mold. Well, I ended
Tanner
up saying-
Brzezinski.
Yeah, so while I'm doing it, I'm just going to cut it in a couple different molds for you. And I looked at them in the seat when I was on the way here going like, oh, this is a great example. So if you look at these boards, you see how they don't mate at all.
Yeah, no.
Right?
that-
Yeah,
all
they're
very
all over
different.
the.
All over the board.
Right.
Yeah.
So that also gives us an interesting way to analyze it. Let me see if I got something here. There we go. I know every skater or skate shop should have some riser pads around to accurately measure a board. So
Why?
what I want to share with you, I shared with you guys a digital gauge I had before, right?
Yes, I remember that.
And it was something that I sort of trying to solve the puzzle of PJ Ladd had to sort of try to connect the result of the wheel, the truck, and the board. And so I want everybody to be clear that now I'm going to share how anybody with an iPhone can understand it.
Okay.
How am I going to turn this thing on now?
So, what are you measuring exactly?
So what we're going to measure is angles.
Okay.
So for an example, let me see which one's which. So we'll start.
That is a steep concave board, and
Yeah,
now you're going flatter and flatter and flatter.
Yeah. So I was going to start with the flatter first.
Okay. Perfect.
This one's the flatter one.
Yeah, that looks flat.
That looks flat as
So-
hell.
Yeah.
I could almost. That's like.
So first of all, see how this board, as I tap on it, I'm assuming this table's pretty flat, knowing that if I was
Yes.
going to make something like this in the planer, I'd run it through, and it's pretty flat.
Yeah.
So this board isn't wanting to spin a lot on this table. But there is a little bit of belly. So it's mathematically, I want to get my math right. So I'm going to take these riser pads, I'm going to put it underneath the trucks. So now it's not going to rock that direction, right? Now it's nice and stable. Okay. So you grab your iPhone. Make sure the ringer's off on this thing. It's going to start making lots of noise. That's why I turned it off.
Dubs, what's his password? Did you see
I
it?
missed
555.
1, 2,
What's
3,
my
4,
face?
5.
It doesn't even know who I am anymore.
2525.
It doesn't even recognize you? Don't do it too many times.
Okay.
You'll break your phone.
So on an iPhone, and I don't know about Androids, but they probably got an equivalent because everybody pretty much has an equivalent, right? So there's an app in here called Measure, and there's Level, right? So I'm going to take this, and Dubs, you're going to have to read the numbers because so I'm putting in the middle of the
If
board,
it's level.
and you can see I got a 0, right? So now as I put a 0 here, I'm actually 1 on this
You
one
are.
where the truck is.
Oh.
I'm -1 over here, right? I'm 19 here. I'm 19 here, but if I slide it down or up, if I hang the phone over the edge, I'm 20.
Yeah, but Paul, this isn't like.
So this is a symmetrical board.
Are you putting the riser pads under there just so you have a
Level.
I'm trying to make a constant with everything.
Okay.
But I'm also trying to show skaters out there
Right.
that you'll see in a different mold when it's rocking, you're just not going to get a good number.
Okay.
Right? So this can take place with a deck. Okay, and you can understand your deck. You know,
So we were like one little. What is it? What are those millimeters or something? What
Just
are those
angles.
Angles. Okay, so
just
we
degrees.
were
Degrees.
1 degree off, right?
Right.
Okay.
So so that's a PS 101 mold.
This is P. Okay.
Okay, that's a specific mold I've had for many years. Okay, so here I got a 0 on here. I go to this truck, I got a 0. So that means this board is flat across there, right? There's no change in that part. Okay, now this doesn't have tenths. I don't know why Apple doesn't have tenths in the Measure app, but if anybody has any friends that work there, tell them skaters need tenths at least. 1/10, 2/10. We get really accurate if you want, but
Maybe there's an app that has it.
maybe there's another app that does. I just haven't worked with it.
Gotcha.
But what I find is that it's not about being exact. It's about being in a range. I really don't care about exact. I care about understanding the range because it's organic and there's going to be a range. So here we can see, here we got 18.
18.
Here,
He's on the nose.
right?
Now he's going on the tail.
And we got 18.
18 over it. This is a symmetrical board, though, right?
Yep, got 18 here.
So
If I drive my tape measure, if I hang it off the end, I get 19.
yeah.
So see how I come up here, I start to get the number to come up.
But
right?
let me ask you a question. What
now
is the purpose of this?
well, I'm trying to help people understand their board. This board works really good. Why does it work good?
But I don't know why it works so good if it's an 18 or a 20.
Okay, but I'm going to help you understand that.
Okay,
But we're going to see the range first.
Okay, so we're going to working with the range.
Right. So something we didn't talk about with that is sort of the fingers of flat. So to be clear, I look at fingers of flat is the center of the truck hole on the edge of the finger, and then where this finger. So that finger's dead 100% flat. This finger's pretty much about 2/3 of the way in is the center of the radius. Do you see that? Would you agree with that, Dubs?
Yep.
And
Slightly
do
going
you
up.
remember when it was one finger flat and you wanted it 2 or 3? Yeah. So you're that generation was like everything in the world camp was with fingers of flat,
Yes.
right? Like that's how they judged it. And so the fingers of flat on this mold is less. Okay, so we see this mold I have roughly probably 1 1/4 fingers, right? So when I look at this on the table, the nose and tail are steeper in height, but not necessarily angle, right? So we have all these pieces. We have this distance, we have the height, the angle, then we got the truck, the wheel, and everything else that goes with it. Okay, so this particular one,
That's the flattest one you got. Just
Right, so
judging
this
by my
is-
eye.
well,
I
this
got- I
this
gotta-
one's got
Got a good eye.
over 2 fingers of flat, lots of flat to it, right?
I knew it.
0 in the middle, 0, 18, 18.
We're still working with the
Okay.
18.
Right. So these
Even though
are
it's
these are
flat.
symmetrical, but
But it starts
the-
later.
It starts later.
Yeah,
later.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
So
okay,
it's
okay.
further
2 fingers.
apart.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's
Okay.
further apart. So if we took this 2 molds, this mold is actually the same mold, just an inch shorter. Okay. So if I look at this right now, let's see if I find the right comparison. When I stack the S mold on top, you can see how it doesn't fit, right? But when I put it on the bottom here, and I match up these tails, you go like, oh, there's air on there, right?
Yes, I could see that.
And that's further apart.
Okay.
And basically, this S mold is going to manual easier. Okay, because it's going to be easier to pick up the nose.
How come these don't come with instruction booklets?
Well, tricks don't come with instruction booklets either, do
I
you?
know,
gotta
but if
figure
you
it out.
told me
Yeah,
that I
true.
had a board that I could manual better with, I'd run with that one.
Obviously.
I don't know these things, though.
Yeah, you still got to come to the shop and work on your manual.
We worked it, bro.
So here's
We
another
came down
mold.
there.
This is the steepest of the steep.
So this is
that
steep.
one looks.
So this is a mold that right now it's Dev P20, so it's development P20, and it's 0 here, 0 here, and this
20.
one's 21 here.
Damn.
Okay, so this isn't even the P20 then. This is that's the P20, yeah. And then this one on the nose is 25.
Whoa.
It's not
Okay,
symmetrical.
So it's not symmetrical.
Right.
I cut this isn't what he was asking for, but I had a blank. It was on CNC. I'm just going to show him this mold that I've got.
Oh.
It's
might
a
like
development mold. Someone might like it. Someone might not like it, right? But the issue is the shape is symmetrical, meaning the lengths are the same. The fingers of flat are the same. The shape this way is the same, but the surface is not. So really, it's to be truly symmetrical, there's 4 things that got to be right. The drilling, the physical profile of the shape, and then the fingers flat. That ties to the drilling, right? So you got to have all that together
Right.
to make it work right. Now, someone had asked something about measuring a board. So A lot of people now measure skateboards like this. And someone said something about wanting a Grosso story. So here's a Grosso story for you, or Grosso and Lucero story. When they joined Schmitt Stix, they wanted 31-inch boards. Brad Dorfman says, we sell 30-inch boards. And we couldn't get Brad to accept that they weren't going to be 30. And we made 30-inch boards, and we made rider boards for Lucero and Grosso at 31. And everybody's like, what? We don't have a nose as long as theirs. It was just ridiculous because salesman dimensions. 10 by 30 was a dimension in the 80s, and the salesmen were convinced it's all you could sell.
Okay.
Didn't care about how long the wheelbase was, how long the nose was. He just cared about the dimensions. So that's why I always consider the length a byproduct. So if I looked at it in my computer file right now on my CNC, this is a 32-inch board.
And you're measuring it from the tip of the nose to the tip of the tail without going into the concave.
Correct.
For people listening.
Right.
People
So
listen
I'm
to the show,
projecting
too.
it down.
Right. So it's just a straight across.
Right.
Okay.
So in this particular board right now, so if I cut my grip tape at 32, you're going to be disappointed.
It's not going to fit.
It's not going to fit.
Right.
You're going to have a piece missing. Because this particular board is coming in at 32 and a half.
What? Okay.
Okay.
Keep going.
And, but if I go look at this one, for instance.
But what's the proper way to measure it? Is there not a proper way, or you
Well,
just measure it?
our feet don't linger in the air. So if we were, what do they call those slackliners? If we were slackliners,
Right.
but we're not slackliners, we're skateboarders,
Yeah.
to be clear. We're not
Okay.
slacking here, okay?
Yeah. No.
However, the balance to be a slackliner looks amazing.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I wish I had that balance. But here's a scenario where this one is 32, right? But when I go this way, it's only 32 and a quarter.
Okay. Okay. It's
Right?
a little smaller. yeah.
Because of the fingers are flat.
Right.
And where it is, right? This one. So this is the mold Tanner already rides. So this is what he's used to. So I'm showing him other boards that are symmetrical and then one that's out of the ballpark, just to share different, right? So here we see the 32, and here we see 32 and 3/8, right?
And this is the flattest one.
No, this is in between
So what's the proper way to measure it?
on the surface.
On the surface.
Same
The
place
surface
it
goes
is.
down.
Where your
Okay.
feet
Yeah.
ride.
Okay.
Your feet ride in the surface.
Okay.
Your feet don't ride like slackliners.
Okay. I got you. Okay.
And if you guys are slackliners out there, no insults.
Dude, that is
But
so
the
gnarly to do.
slackliners probably relate to what I'm saying better than we do, right?
Right. Right. So it's so interesting because there's so many facets to it.
Right.
You know.
But you
you
see
like-
how you can use your iPhone to get that, right?
Right.
And the crazy thing is that there's no tenths of degrees there, right? When I'm working with a pro skater, usually about 0.3 is where I move them, where I get them in their zone. So that doesn't even get that. That's not micro tuning. That's general tuning, right? You know. But when you understand it, then it's great. And then the same thing applies with a complete board. We'll go back to Andy's board here. So here, you could do the same thing with the complete. Okay, so I got my 0. Find out where the trucks are. Okay, so these trucks are flat on this. Okay. The tip on this is 20. The tip on this end is 20. Okay, so it's symmetrical. When I look at it here and here, the fingers are flat. It looks like it might be shifted a hair forward. Do you see that, Dubs? You see, it's just a little bit forward. Which is, I'm just used to
I love it. Bro, it's amazing.
I'm
love
just
it.
so used to hearing you say it on the show that I can't help it, right?
Amazing, bro. No, I
That's
love
the
it.
reality.
Keep calling him Dubs. What's his name?
But you know that characteristic because in the 90s that's what it was about. Everything was shifted a quarter inch forward.
Right.
Okay, and we had a little less flat, so a little more fingers of flat in the back, a little less fingers of flat in the front.
Have you? Okay, please keep
You
going.
know,
Keep going.
I'm not sure if that's conscious on this board or not because the tolerance I'm talking about here is very light. It's manufacturing.
It's minute.
Well, I want it to be perfect. Well, it didn't come out of an injection mold. You know,
It's never
And,
gonna
and
be
do you know the
perfect.
shrink rate of that material that came out of that injection mold? Because if you want to be perfect, you got to know the shrink rate.
Have you seen
You must know
Andy's new grip tape that he worked on that has all the all the little lines and everything? Have you seen that?
No.
Oh, it looks incredible.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do.
Is it
I don't
just,
know. I don't know what I
just
would.
for aesthetic purposes?
No, it
It's
actually.
for purpose.
No, I have a
Purposefully-
blueprint of it. I could see a blueprint right now.
It's
I'm
like
going
a line going
here's
this
where
way,
you
line going. Yes,
put
it's
your foot
all-
for this.
For your foot, for your kick flips right here.
Yeah.
And he has to set it up every time? He has to do these.
It seems like it comes like that one
So
strip, right?
Is he
Or no?
manufacturing
No,
it?
it's
selling it?
manufacturing it.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
Right.
Powell.
Here, do this trick.
I ever
Do
seen
this
it. It's
trick
awesome.
this way. So this one is symmetrical
Yeah.
in shape, whereas previous one wasn't. It was a different shape on each end.
And the wheelbase is measured from what?
Center bolt hole to center bolt hole.
There you go.
What is it?
14 1/4.
Standard.
So there's a case
Standard.
there where I was using this tip, right? But this tip has this thing to it.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then
yeah. You need
depending,
to,
it may or may
right,
not.
right,
So
right.
so in this case, I'm
We
better
could
to do
assume.
this,
We could
right?
oh, you're going from
Where
the
when I
two.
do this, I'm better to do that because I know I stretch the tip out.
Totally.
So you actually measured it from at 15 1/4, but you
Right.
were an inch. You
Burned it.
started
inch.
at 2. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Exactly.
Burn and turn.
So you saw you can just take your iPhone.
Yeah,
there.
I love that.
Man, my buddy's board's working really good. Okay, well, what has he got? Okay, his tail's steeper. He's got a finger of flat less or more. Oh shit, he's got ventures and I'm wearing indies. Okay, then I'm going to reduce my wheelbase by 1/2 inch or increase it by 1/2 inch. As crazy as that's what it is. And then you find the sweet spot. When I get people to a sweet spot and they're like, "Oh, I'm home," and it's like, "Well, how'd you get away from home?" Well, I just take what my sponsor gave me, or I take what I get for free. That kind of situation.
Same.
Totally.
I did that.
Yeah.
I want to find my sweet home.
You gonna find it?
I want to.
Come to the shop. Let's tune it in.
Go to the
I'm gonna have
shop
to-
with
yeah,
him.
I'm gonna have to do that, dude.
Dude, I think that. Well, I just want to say, I mean, like, it's amazing. Like all these conversations you have, like everybody that asks questions, like there was like 80% great questions. Like we just had to narrow it down because we knew we only had a certain amount of time. Yeah. But it's
think we have all
fascinating.
night.
You could come. Well, here's the thing, Paul. It's like you. Oh, you got more.
Roger brought some boards out. He wanted me to just have some opinion on,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
so
go ahead.
and just talk and share. So this is Santa Cruz's Everslick VX. So they combine the technology there. So their VX is their sort of copy of Powell's construction, right? And to be clear, what happens with this construction is this is made. I've never really analyzed the VX ones enough, but the Powell ones aren't made with any wood going this way. You see these lines in here in the fiberglass? You can see that in the sheen.
Yeah, they're going horizontal.
They're going this way, right? In an X pattern.
Diagonal, right.
And that's how it's getting the strength in that direction. But that's why you can run it over with a car and it won't break. If you put crossbands in there, it's going to break.
What is this, a flight deck?
This is a flight deck right here.
Okay. Yeah.
And this one also is a flight deck. This one seems to be like maybe it's got an insert under the trucks. Maybe that one does as well. So I guess maybe they do some reinforcement
They
under
do a
the
little
trucks.
some there.
You can see a shadow there.
Yep.
This has slick plastic on the bottom of it.
Ooh.
But feel them, they don't. When you touch them, they feel thin, right?
do.
And the thin makes you feel light, but they're not really light. Okay.
Right.
Because
It's an illusion.
when you use a glue that has a higher density and you fill the tubes up solid versus having a tube in a tube, because a polyvinyl glue, when it sucks into the wood, it lines the wall and it dries out in the middle. So you have a tube in a tube. So you got a flexible tube and a solid tube. Doesn't mean they don't ride great.
No,
Just
no,
I
for
used
sure.
to make lots of stuff with epoxy. It's difficult to process, and I applaud anybody willing to do anything different that works. Just to be clear,
Yeah,
I think it's fabulous.
You got to try stuff. If you don't try stuff, you're not moving.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
You want to stay innovating.
Yeah.
Paul,
Exactly that. Yeah.
here's the thing. It's like we got to keep this conversation going. You know what I'm saying? You need to come back here like we need to schedule you every like 3 to 6 months, right? You come back, we talk more questions, we talk
this whole
more
thing
shop.
of having questions from your community was great,
Yeah.
right? And when Roger and I
love
saw
it.
Roger last week and said, well, pose a question.
Yeah.
See who wants to interact, because I don't have the time to do the one-on-one, and I can't get this deep with people. But I love to share. I see people at the skate park, and they're like commenting like, oh, I don't want to pose. Like, I'm totally good. I'm just trying to catch my breath. I'm more than glad. I'm more than glad to talk here. Thanks,
For sure.
Sometimes I do got to say, hey, I got to drop in. My watch says my heartbeat's below 100. It's time to drop in now.
Trying to skate at least a little bit.
I got to skate a little, right? I'm not here for a social. I'm actually here to skate.
Totally. But this is what our platform's for, for
Right.
you to come in and talk shop and get some questions from the community and all that stuff. So you got to,
Great insight.
dude, you got to come back. Oh my God, Paul, what do you got going on there?
Let me see.
Well, no, wait, he's bringing out a binder.
Yeah, this is from my look back library.
Oh yeah,
You know Kevin Marks?
of course.
So I was just looking for something this morning to reference. Oh, that one. So basically, I have a full library of magazines. I could just go. I can go right. Oh yeah, here's 86.
That's so
Here's
sick.
the year, and I just walk in the closet and I grab it.
That's rad.
It was really cool because when Kevin started this, I was like, "Well, do you got spreadsheets of the magazines?" He's like, "No," and I'm like, "Well, here they are, and here's what I'm missing."
Yeah, right.
And
he helped
he helped
bust
me
him with
fill
the-
in my
oh
holes.
my God.
And then I would buy lots of magazines on eBay to get one or two, and then I'd give the rest to him.
You got
know?
an interview
Wow.
in there.
Yeah, so that was something that was in Thrasher years ago.
Sick.
I was trying to look for.
Wait, do you have all these, like all the Thrashers?
Yeah, you want to come? What
No
issue you looking
way.
for?
Wow.
You know, if you go like, "Hey, there's
Damn,
my favorite
these
cover,"
are in great condition.
you know, some are, some aren't, but they're pretty good condition.
I've always wanted
But-
to get my when I was born that issue, like they had the cover.
Yeah.
You know, I never,
When were you born?
October 2nd, 1984.
84.
Yeah.
Which Thrasher would that be?
Do you know that by heart?
That's like
He's like
you
a
would form.
No, but we can walk into the closet and go, here it is.
Yeah.
No problem at all. So Kelly was born when 84.
Yeah.
What month?
October.
Okay, I'll find the cover for you and send you a copy of it.
Wow.
That would be
go.
awesome,
Literally
dude.
right there. It's
That's
there.
tight.
You know? Somebody asked something about Grosso and Lucero though in some of the comments about a comment. You know, so like here's a Schmitt. There's their first Schmitt Stix ad.
Yeah.
So they were both
Wow.
inducted in the Skateboarding Hall of Fame
Yes,
this
they
past
were.
week. Okay. Unfortunately, it was the spirit of Jeff Grosso because
Yes.
he's not with us anymore. And but I wanted to share that. This last week was really, really cool at the Skateboarding Hall of Fame and all the new inductees, and they had 2 years of inductees in it.
Yeah.
And it's definitely coming where we're having the 90s riders now.
Rick Howard and Mike Carroll.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
dude.
They were there.
Yeah.
We're stoked to see them. Proud
So
of them for
cool.
being part of it. You know, making the influence they made, right? You know?
Big time.
So, skateboard history is in the magazines. It's in print, and you can't lie about a cover date, right?
Right.
There's nothing mysterious about that. It's like this is here.
And we got your Skateboarding Hall of Fame trophy
Yep.
right here.
Yep. I
Boom.
never even mentioned that when I came on the show before.
Dude.
The one time I was like, "Oh, what have you been up to?" And I didn't even say that. And then the crazy thing about when that happened, so we're during COVID. The people in the Hall of Fame kept going, "Hey, you're going to watch the ceremony?" And like they didn't tell me I was getting inducted, right?
Oh, they
So basically,
didn't?
I watch, and then I'm like, "Oh wow, I'm getting inducted. I'm getting the Icon Award. That's pretty cool."
Yeah.
1:00 that day. At 4:00 that day, I found that Jeff Grosso passed.
Oh.
And
no.
womp womp womp.
Oh, my.
And then we never had a ceremony because we had COVID and all that, right? So it was
Right.
sort of a year and a half later, they had a ceremony and they tied it all together, you know, when
well,
everybody was
that's-
back.
that's
And
awesome.
Vans throws their muscle and support behind supporting the Skateboarding Hall of Fame and supporting history
It looked
and what happens with it.
It looked
you know?
amazing. I wish we could have been there. We were doing a live show that Thursday, and I'm
Should have
I'm
been
trying
live from there.
well, I'm trying to tell them don't schedule stuff on Thursdays.
Well,
okay?
they
We
normally
need
do it
to-
on Thursdays. So
I
what,
know.
Oh, tie it in.
Yeah, or tie us in.
Tie us in,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. Or I'm just waiting for mine. I mean, my Icon podcast
I think you got to
host.
wait a while, but
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
well,
Paul.
8 years. You mean
8 years
be a little
podcast.
more.
Look how much we've done in 8 years.
But
You know
when
what I
they
mean?
started the Skateboarding Hall of Fame, I had people kept on telling me like, "Well, you should be inducted." I'm like, "Dude, there's so many people in front of me,
I
you don't even
know,
know,
I
right?"
know,
like
I know.
people that made contributions, right? The person I was co-inducted with as an icon isn't with us anymore, but his name is Hobie Alter,
Oh yeah.
and he was like, so to me, he's like the maker's maker, right? He's a guy that made Hobie surfboards, Hobie cats,
Oh, yeah.
skateboards. Like he made the active sports culture happen, you know, because he made it, not just marketed it. Really, it's like Rick and Mike. They marketed it. They skated it as pros. They didn't make it.
Right.
Back
but
in the
but
day,
they marketed it. They
Right.
made a whole image.
Right.
They made this thing called Girl. They made a whole amazing stuff. I'm not trying to put that down anymore.
100. Yeah, well, I understand what you're saying.
They're different things.
Well,
For sure.
because back in the day, skateboard companies were actually manufacturers. They
Right.
manufactured their
Right.
skateboards,
Like a Powell
and they're
Peralta.
like a Powell Peralta, who's
Right.
still manufactured to this day.
right, or they manufactured part of it because in
Sure.
the '80s, Powell and Santa Cruz didn't press their boards, but they did cut them out and print them, and someone else pressed them.
Now, what do we got now, Paul? What is
So
this?
let's try to
Trans
find
World?
out. Yeah, I was trying to find something. So here's a Professor Schmitt ad. So just to know how far this goes back. So Professor Schmitt actually started in '86. As I showed up in a Del Mar contest in a lab coat I found at a thrift store. Okay. I'm not even sure why. And then there was
Just came together.
so this is part of the Grosso story. So the Lucero laid up this ad, winter, spring, summer, fall, and it was Monty, Lopes, Lucero, and Grosso quit. And they put me in there as The last one.
Space
Let's
Holder.
see it.
But then
Let's see it.
basically
Let's see
people
it.
love the professor thing. So then we started to do ads like this.
Oh yeah,
right?
there you are. Whoa.
I remember that.
Hold it up to this camera. I
Crazy.
mean, just a little. Yeah, so they could see a little bit. Yeah.
Right.
Amazing, bro.
So
Look
that
at
was
you.
on the H ramp in Santa Ana.
Okay. Look at that. I
What
love
year
that.
is this?
That's 87. What did I say that was? That one is 89.
Yeah,
That's
I
89.
definitely remember this.
And then also in that era, I used to do Technically Speaking. So I did a column in Transworld. So this particular one's about bearings.
Oh wow.
And I explained how things worked. So exactly what we're talking about here,
It's a lot of
I
words
did in
right
the
there.
80s. Kelly was still sucking on his thumb.
I still do.
You know?
Yeah.
But that's the reality, right? Like,
I love
You know?
that.
Wow.
I mean, there's so much history here, bro.
Right.
Man, you've
Super sick.
done it all.
well, years ago when Skateboarding Hall of Fame, when Alan Gilfin was inducted, Ollie,
Ollie.
McGill goes, "Would you induct Alan?" "I don't want to do it." And I'm like, okay, but you know, I've known Alan as an adult since, but not as a kid, really. Like as a kid, I was like, wow, that's Alan, right? You know, and but when I researched the old skateboarder magazines, in his Who's Hot in 1978, he told people to ollie up the curb in their neighborhood. Nobody was listening. Maybe Gons was, but nobody else was. Right? Because it took 7 years to that become a thing where you ollie up the curb in your neighborhood.
Huh.
Right?
7 years.
But why I say that is that printed history. So you guys are creating a timestamp now. This is the modern timestamp of history, right?
Sure.
This episode happened at this time and it has this perspective. So thanks for preserving history, creating history, being part of history, all the above, right?
Thank you.
Yeah,
bro.
dude,
It means a
thank
lot
you, bro.
coming from Professor Schmitt.
Definitely.
Again, we need to. We'll keep this conversation going. You got to keep coming back, and we'll just continue this till
Forever.
forever.
Yeah, well, you guys come up with the questions.
Oh
you know?
yeah, for sure.
That's the reality, right? Like it's about enthusiasts being enthusiastic about things.
There was a
right?
lot of people that were enthusiastic on getting these questions to you, but also the two birds, one stone. I said it before, and you delivered us our new skateboards that we came out with. Right?
Yeah.
We from time to time we do some special 9 Club boards. We don't make a lot
Oh,
of
these
them.
are special, all right.
Oh yeah, I'm about to show them right now. From time to time, we make some special boards. We don't, it's like limited, right?
Little wacky
Limited.
packy.
We have these that we made that you brought up. These are so back in the day there was a had fucked up blind kids boards, right? And
And they were
these-
based on the wacky packy
the
gum
wacky
stickers,
yeah,
right?
The Garbage Pail Kids.
Garbage Pail Kids, but they're wacky packies too, weren't they?
I'm not sure. I think it was based off the Garbage Pail
Okay.
Kids.
I think
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm not
actually,
too
I've never heard
sure.
of. I've never heard of
Basically,
wacky
trading
packy.
cards and gum. How
Yes.
can you sell gum and trading cards?
True.
That's
Right.
what it was.
True.
Or stickers.
True.
And
Yeah,
this
that's what they
one is just based off of, well, I don't know what it's really based off of, but this is our newest board. We got mine right here.
That
This
was-
is me going into elementary
school.
right? Dubs is
Kelly, come
Oh,
on.
I think
well, look
can't
at-
see me. I'm gonna
hold on.
just-
Dubs
still
is
holding
let's
up.
get the there you go. No, go back to Dubs. Get the angle there. I'm trying to get the light up.
You got it? Yeah.
Dubs is that's when when was this, Dubs? You were going into middle school, or was that when you started working for Diamond?
This is probably elementary. I'd
Okay.
say first or second grade.
Okay.
And then, Charlie put his little spin on it.
Oh yeah. And then
Okay. This is
Kelly's was when you
Use a morphing app to morph it.
no, Kelly's was when he was going into college.
This is my community college, first day of community college, and it was, it was a really delightful background. Had like the lasers.
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
it was.
yeah,
I was
yeah.
at I was playing laser tag with some friends, and we got the photos right there.
Man, that's
Nice.
good. These
Yeah.
are our fucked up 9 fucked up 9 Club kids boards.
Yep. I love it.
Yeah, coming soon. Actually,
Actually,
Turned out
probably
great.
out.
these will already be out and probably sold out by the time this episode comes out. Well, hopefully, Paul.
what
Hopefully,
it's
we'll
That's
sell
how
them.
we
We're gonna
let me
we're gonna sign them and everything because these are
Alright.
just special. These are if you want to ride them, you can
they
ride
are
them. But
special.
Yeah, these
Alright.
are really,
Yeah.
really special.
This is a real
Yeah.
photo, by the way. So this is not, I gave a real photo. Okay. So that's the only
so you're
difference.
saying this isn't photoshopped at all?
No, it's photoshopped, but it's a real photo.
It's Photoshop from a real photo.
There we
Yeah,
go.
Let's
yeah,
be
yeah.
clear.
There
right?
we go.
You're telling me that this isn't my?
Yeah.
This isn't me.
Yeah.
This is
You're
my-
telling me this isn't me?
Did AI make that?
Oh, that
Charlie.
Here's the
our
angle.
guy Charlie.
Yeah, he used the AI function to
I
say
don't know what he uses.
morph him
He's,
together and give him a bowl cut.
Look at that, though.
It's gonna be good.
They look great
Incredible,
there.
bro. So this is our new 9 Club, fucked up 9 Club kids boards.
Get them while they're hot.
Yeah, and these are all 3 of ours are different sizes.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Mine's
Mine-
an 825, 81.25.
Mine's 825.
and mine is an 8.
There you go.
Yeah.
And there are different colors on the bottom. It's all mixed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you got
Yeah.
green, purple,
Green, purple, teal.
and
teal.
teal.
Yep.
Yeah.
And these are all
3
made
colors.
by Professor Schmitt and his crew down there.
Yeah.
Professor Schmitt, when you saw the file come in and you opened it, and, you
It
know,
was totally hot.
you were like,
This is
what
it.
was your reaction? You just were you blown away?
Why aren't you ordering 10 times as many? Okay.
Well, should we talk about how many we made, or do we keep it?
How many did we make? 50?
I think no, 6. We
60.
totally made. I think 65 each. But we're gonna be selling.
Well, we're keeping
50.
a couple.
Yeah.
Right,
yeah.
you wanted to sell 50 and have
We're
some
selling
to
50.
yourself.
Yeah. So we're going to be selling 50 of these things. But it was 65 made?
Yep.
Okay.
Each
Gotta
of each.
make, yeah.
Yeah, I need a couple of these.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, your wife's gonna love that one.
She will love it.
You're going to hang that on the wall?
I don't know about that.
Oh, okay. I'm going to.
In the garage.
Maybe in the garage.
At least
yeah.
hang me and Kristen's up in your house or something. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. You know what? This might be the one. Like, I'll hang up. We'll
This
see.
is the one to break the pattern, right?
Right.
Well, we want to thank you for making
Yeah,
these
yeah, no
boards,
problem.
Paul.
Turned out
I mean,
great.
Honored to make 'em.
we wouldn't make them with anybody else. I mean, obviously, you've been on the show multiple times. You've schooled us. You've taught us so much, and it's only right to get them from good old PS Stix.
No doubt
Yeah,
about
dude.
You
that.
know what I'm saying, man?
Thank you for making these, dude.
Handcrafted.
Thank you.
I just wanted to have this time of my life on a board.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean, it was exciting. You were going in college. You were like a new man.
It was. I was really meeting all these new people.
Yeah.
And just I really wanted to fit in.
It's who you became today.
That's
from
why I'm
that,
here.
Yeah.
Yep.
Paul,
So good.
this one board, how many people had touched it to manufacture this? How many people you think?
So graphics, let's say 3.
Okay.
Pressing 3.
6.
Machining, drilling. So now we're up to 8.
Okay.
Edge sanding,
Okay.
9. Routing, 10. That happens before edge sanding.
Okay.
Hand sanding, 11. Paint, there's 2 people, so we're 13.
Mm-hmm.
Transfer, we're up to 15. Package, we're up to 19.
Damn.
So at least 19 people have touched this multiple times. And that's not even the veneer mill where they cut the veneer off the log and people touched it, right?
Right.
So the reality is that when you break a board, there's a whole bunch of work and love that went into making that thing, right? And it's like, don't break it on purpose. Let somebody make something new out of it. The nanotubes are done.
Let's respect the nanotubes.
Yeah,
everybody.
that's right.
You
Respect
know what
the
I
Never
mean?
break another board.
Don't.
So look at how the purple nanotubes are in here. So the molecular size of the dye doesn't penetrate as good on the purple, so you get really good grain. Where the teal, the molecular size, a little better, and you don't get as drastic, right?
Okay. What
And
about
the green? The same thing.
Okay.
So really,
I
the
love it.
the purple and the black and the dark blue are the best colors for seeing the wood grain come alive.
Right.
But then each piece of wood's unique, just like us.
I love
Very
it.
true.
I
Trees
love
are like people.
And each board has different nanotubes, different number of nanotubes, right?
Yep. Yep.
Dude, Paul,
These are great.
thank you,
Yeah, thank you for
so
this.
much for making those. First of all,
Oh, it's an honor.
and there'll be hopefully more to come. You
Yep.
know, we'll do more, but we just do special runs. We're not a skateboard company. We're a podcast.
Yep.
We do special stuff, and but again, you got to come back.
Yeah.
And come hang out with us and talk more shop, and we'll get more questions from our community.
Yeah, let's have it. I
Dude.
love answering the questions of community, and curiosity, right? And I'm sorry we couldn't
No.
answer all of them, but
I
we didn't have
know.
20 hours, and
There was a lot
Yeah,
because
there's a lot.
we posted it on our Instagram, we posted it on our YouTube community posts, we posted it on our X account and our Discord. So we
I looked at
grabbed them.
Instagram last night, and I didn't even look at the other ones. I didn't even know those
we
were out
grabbed
there.
them from everywhere. Yeah, we grabbed them from everywhere.
Yeah.
Kelly, we do the honors. We
Yeah.
grabbed Professor Schmitt some stuff to take home with them, man. Maybe
What
some.
Do you guys want some stuff to take home?
Well, yeah.
Okay, I brought
What-
a couple things.
Hey.
What size T-shirt are you?
XL, please.
Excel. I didn't grab it, but
If you
there's
have a
bunch of
medium
stuff.
sweat
Yeah,
for my
yeah.
girlfriend, I know she would love
Excuse
it.
me.
The Skull King?
Oh yeah. You can get like a little
Oh,
boom box or something?
nice.
Oh, what?
Little phone
Oh, wait a minute.
holder.
Oh,
Look at that.
Shoot.
That is sick.
Oh, thank you, Paul. He gave us
Appreciate
the
it.
Paul. How many people touched this?
Not as many, but the guys made them out of scrap wood. So we do
Okay.
these upcycle projects. So here's a couple switch plates. I'm not sure if I gave you some of these
Whoa.
when you came to my
Wow,
shop. or not.
rad.
Switch plates for the wall. The light switch.
Single ones, light switch, flip a switch.
No way.
So the light
Flip a
switches-
switch.
Do we still have light switches like this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dubs. Maybe not here.
In here?
I have some of the other ones as well for the
the rectangle one?
The rectangle ones.
Do you sell?
Dectura.
There it is.
Yeah, so on my PS Stix website, I sell these upcycle
You
products.
sell them up. Okay.
That's super cool.
Awesome.
There's a couple extra of these.
Thank
Of
you,
these.
Gil.
I never put these on the website
Grab that.
because they're inconsistent.
Oh,
You look
Kelly.
at everyone's so
They're all
drastically different.
Yeah,
And I was like, I don't know. Can I sell that proper? But it's like the guys just taking scraps and making stuff. Like there was nothing to
Totally.
do.
Well, I mean, if you let it be known that these are scraps and all might be different.
No,
then,
this
you
is
know.
great, man. Thank you so much.
And then I even do a case where I sell these upcycle blocks. I could take 4 boards that were damaged in my manufacturing process, press them together and make them near flat,
yeah.
and then make stuff out of them.
Super
And then
cool.
you can see like the crookedness here in the pattern. You see where there's some straight and some crooked, right?
Yeah.
So actually I make them crooked on purpose because they won't be straight, right?
Right.
It's hard. Straight's like if you made it perfect, but I can't make it out of scraps and make it perfect.
Right.
Look, you
Can't
can put
work
your
that
phone
way.
sideways, or you could
that.
film yourself doing TikToks.
Exactly.
Drawing.
So some extra
I know,
foam
my
ones if
favorite
you want
thing.
to.
yourself
That's
doing
my favorite
TikToks.
thing.
Some extra foam ones if you want to give them away to some of your
Thank you.
community.
Yes. Oh man. Well, yes. We'll do a little
throw that
giveaway.
into one of the giveaways, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
For sure.
I debated. I was like, at one point, I made myself a thing. I bought one of those Apple magnetic chargers, and I'm like, I'm going to build one with a magnetic charger in it. I never got it programmed and done. But then what happens? It then becomes an expensive thing, right?
Sure. But people like expensive stuff, Paul. First of all, Professor Schmitt, dude,
All right.
it's always
Thank
a
you.
pleasure hanging
Always
out
an
with
honor,
you.
Definitely.
Always an honor.
Such a cool.
Here is some 9 Club stuff to take home. I don't know if you're a hat guy, but maybe if it's a sunny day out there, you get a 9
My girlfriend
Club
will love the hat. I'm not
Okay,
much of a
you
hat
go.
person, but she is big time.
Okay. Got the 9 Club stance socks.
Oh yeah,
Woo,
I love stocks.
Keep those
Love stance.
Tootsies warm. And of course, we got the 9 Club t-shirt for you.
All
These are all
right,
available
thank
on
you.
the 9club.com.
All right.
And these are brand new. We got the new Yeti 9 Club wipe your mouth.
What's the wipe your mouth tagline about?
Well,
Just trying
Paul,
to
if
get everybody
somebody's just
carry
saying
yourself respectfully. What?
Yeah, if somebody's saying something a little offhanded to you, say, "Well, just go wipe your mouth."
Okay.
You know what I mean?
That's how you
You know what I mean,
okay.
Paul? You know,
Okay.
so that's a go wipe. That's your wipe
I
your
like
mouth
it.
9 Club Yeti Thermos Rambler.
Wow,
type
that thing's
thing, man.
great.
Oh, and
never have one of
Forget
these.
this.
this might be cool. This is a Skull Candy Terrain Mini. You could Bluetooth your phone to that and play music out
Oh,
of
cool.
that.
We'll put it in the shop.
Put it in the shop.
There you go.
There you go.
Give Julio the Bluetooth, and maybe he'll play
No, I'm
some
gonna
music.
keep it in my workshop in Costa Mesa.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay.
Have it there ready to go, right?
Perfect.
There you go.
Just ready to play stuff.
Beautiful.
I love it.
man.
I love the way you gave Chad a real big one.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
it's fitting,
Very
right?
fitting.
Oh, it was so
And it
good.
was
That
his
was so hot.
perfect.
And it was his birthday.
Yeah, it was
How
his birthday. How rad.
Amazing.
All of that.
Dude, he said it was the only present he got on his birthday.
And we
That's what
gave
he
him
said.
some cupcakes.
We got
Oh,
a
yeah.
couple.
We did.
Paul, thank you so much for
Yes.
everything that you've done for skateboarding, bro. And
I'm
lucky I get away with
continue.
it.
Yeah.
That's how I feel. Seriously, I feel lucky I get away with it.
It's amazing, dude. And I mean, just you helping skaters like Cordano, and just everybody that you've helped. I think that's a true gift. To
Yeah.
help these skateboarders
Well,
be
it's
the
a
best
joy.
that
I
they can
realize
be.
that I get the satisfaction and achievement of working with people and seeing
Yeah.
them achieve what they want, right? So it's like it's mutual. It's not even done from a commercial thing.
Yeah.
It's done from a satisfaction thing, right?
Dude.
It's
beautiful, man. It's
but with
beautiful.
Cordano, hopefully the community out there will say, "Hey, we want this or we need this," and maybe Toy Machine will listen and make that. Who
Yeah.
knows?
Totally. You
You
got to
know?
put your suggestions in the suggestion box. Hit up these brands to let them know that this is something that they're looking for.
Right.
There you go. There you
Yeah.
go. Paul, Professor Schmitt, please come back and hang out with us once
All right.
again. This
Thank
has
you
been
so much.
incredible, bro. Professor
appreciate it.
Schmitt, everybody.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, dude.
All right.
job.
Take care, guys. Thanks.